Test, test for YouTube. Test, test for YouTube. Test, test.
Testing, testing.
All right, welcome everyone. We will call to order our regular meeting of council and start by recognizing that we work, live, and play in the city of Port Alberni, which is situated on the unceded territories of the Sechot and Hupachesit First Nations. Council, we do have an agenda in front of us. Are there any late items to add? Councillor Solda.
Madam Mayor, could I, there's no discussion written here about the clean team. I'd like to bring that onto the agenda. Or is it going to be can we report it during some part of it?
Are you wanting to circle back to one of the recommendations made during the committee of the whole meeting?
I would, and thank you. I appreciate that.
I think if that's the case, we can do that without any notice. We can just discuss it when it comes up on the agenda. Okay. Any other items from councillors? Any items from our corporate officer?
No late items, Madam Mayor.
Great. Would somebody like to move approval of our agenda? Moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Any comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And on to minutes. We have minutes from the special meeting and regular meeting of council on October 14th, 2025 to be adopted. Moved to adopt by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Dame. Any comments on the minutes? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. We have no delegations and no unfinished business, so we'll move on to staff reports. Item number 1 is quarterly reports, and we'll start with economic development.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Although there are many items worth discussing in this report, I'd like to talk about the Hometown Takeover Canada opportunity mentioned in the In Progress section. In late September, HGTV announced that the very successful Hometown Takeover USA program was getting a Canadian counterpart. On Sunday, September 21st, our communications manager, Alicia Pusip, sent me a text saying, "We need to do this," and a link to the announcement. On Monday, the 22nd, we met to develop an approach to the questions about assets and challenges, people and places, special events, and historical moments. On Tuesday, the 23rd, we received an email from RTR Media on behalf of HGTV congratulating Port Alberni resident Brandy DeVito for getting us to the next stage of the casting process. In the email, they said they wanted a video that was balanced in respect of the reasons why we should be chosen and the challenges we face. They also wanted more information, so I reached out to Ms. DeVito offering to help, and then we set up an interview for Alicia and myself with RTR Media. At that time, we learned that at least one other Port Alberni resident had nominated us, though we weren't given a name. If the US formula is followed, HGTV will choose 6 public spaces, 6 businesses, and 6 homes in one community for a makeover. They will be in the successful community for 5 months, beginning in April or May. The competition is fierce. We know that Lytton and Jasper, both of which have been badly damaged or decimated by wildfire, have applied with at least several dozen, if not hundreds of other communities. In the US, more than 6,000 communities applied and 3 have been featured. This is not an online voting competition like others we have been successful at, but we believe we have a great chance to succeed nevertheless. The deadline for submission of the video is October 31st. So at this very moment, actually at 3 o'clock today, Nancy Wilmot of The Scoop is recording a voiceover in a peak radio station booth for a script that Alicia primarily and myself have put together for a video that reliable real sources of Port Alberni is assembling. Today, we interviewed Wamish and Serena Meyer on behalf of Sashat and Hupachasit, respectively, and we were hoping that we will get you in the next few days. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report, Pat. You will get me in the next few days, I think later today, possibly even, but happy to be a part of it. Thanks for all the work that you and Alicia, as well as others, have done on this. It's an exciting opportunity for sure. Other questions from council? Councillor Haggard.
Not a question, but a comment. I've actually watched this on HDTV, and it was fantastic what they did to your community. And I feel with great minds like you and our communications director, no doubt we're going to get there to the end. Thank you very much.
When we were doing some research on this, and by the way, most of this was done after hours and on weekends, but I found an October 2017 email that I had sent to Chorus TV suggesting that Port Alberni become the first of a series of shows on resource communities highlighting what has happened to us and where we're going. So here we are 8 years later, putting our best foot forward.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much, Pat. And we
Thank you.
will move on to finance.
No.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So today, the quarterly report for finance, information technology, and asset management is prepared for review. Highlight a couple things, obviously with the financial plan being the focus in the third quarter, getting set up to present in September, October, and through until February. That has been the focus of a number of the finance staff. We did have the EOC that took 4 of our staff members over to the HRD to support throughout the quarter while the Mount Underwood EOC was set up. Fortunately, we did have a member of our team that was the director for emergency services in Tofino now on our team, so he was a great resource to supply over at the ACRD for that service. City Hall front desk, we did some redeployment of staff, adjusted some corporate services and finance staffing to have a single point of contact for City Hall. So that's, if you go to the front of City Hall now, you have that direct access, so that has been completed. We worked through the permissive tax exemption. Tax sale is another one that takes quite a bit of time for staff. And really the accountant works on that from the start of May until the end of September, working with properties, moving the properties from a list of about 100 down to this year to 4. So we did have a tax sale and there was 4 properties that were sold at that time. But with tax sale, that is something that could be redeemed and the owner of the property can manage that over the next year to ensure that they do retain that property if they so do wish. Tax collection, you see in the report, there is quite an impressive stat that we've had the highest portion of our taxes for the percentage collected in the last 16 years. So a little bit of a surprise when we looked at the detail, but something that I think is a positive look as far as tax collection throughout the year of 2025. Working on a couple policy and bylaw updates, including the debt write-off that we presented to council, and the water, sewer, and solid waste bylaws were updated based on what was required for the financial plan. And finally, we are working on the draft fleet policy to be presented in the near future. Electronic billing is something that we've seen an uptick, in part due to the postal strike that has been ongoing. And we've seen quite an increase. And realizing that about $2 for every invoice is spent by the city to send those out if they are done in paper. So the more that we can get on electronic billing, it actually reduces the cost. So we've seen a good push from communications and our staff internally to get that option out there. Finally, the asset management program that we have undertaken. The asset management staff member has been working through getting that base layer for the organization so that we can enable the improved processes for asset management. So in the report, you can see in detail some of the projects and work that has been ongoing. So with that, pass it back to council if there's any questions.
Thank you, Andrew. Questions from council? No questions. Thank you very much. We'll move on to infrastructure services.
Good afternoon, Council. This is the third quarter report for infrastructure services. I'll be doing the engineering report, and my operations manager, Clint, will be doing public works today. On page 1, you'll see an overview of some of the routine tasks that we've completed in the third quarter, just the general day-to-day stuff, both in the engineering and the GIS. Under the projects and master planning section, just to go through rather quickly here, highlights the transportation master plan is approximately 60% complete. Over the late summer, we completed the road network survey assessment, which you'll see in the figures in the following pages. A few cutaways of both the data collected as well as the vehicle that was used to do so. This information will be critically important moving forward for both capital project planning, not only in the transportation discipline, but also with the utilities replacement. Before I get into the other master plans, I'd also like to highlight that on November 26th, we will be having the open house, citywide open house at the Echo Center, where we'll be doing both engagement for both transportation master plan as well as the Parks, Rec and Culture. And we invite the public to attend and provide input, ask questions, and to see what we've been working on. Moving on to the Parks, Rec and Culture master plan, the project is approximately 75% complete at the moment. We're going through final development of survey and public engagement materials, which will also be presented at the open house on November 26th. The fire service master plan was completed in late July, and that has been completed and presented to council at this stage. The stormwater CSO master plan is approximately 70% complete. We're working through final stages of going through the data modeling and the hydraulic modeling on that. And finally, the wastewater and water master plans are just in the initial stages as we work through staff capacity, getting all these projects rolling. Just to highlight on page 4 of my report, if you can scroll down a little bit more, just to show some of the data that we've completed and collected. What we have now is a complete map of the road network across the city, highlighting current conditions as compared to engineering standards. What this will do, again, will provide us very critical information around prioritizing what areas we do and what order we do the work in, coupled with utility work as well. Moving on to some other capital projects that were completed in Q3. The Clutha Haven Market Development construction is still ongoing, but a majority of that work has been completed to date. The multiplex arena refurbishment, the rink glass has been installed, as well as safety railings and boards replaced at the end of July. The Kitsuxis dike repair was completed in 2 locations where the embankment had failed completely, and then you can see in the figure there that it's been completely remediated at this point. The Port Pub demolition was completed in late July. The Bird Street resurfacing project was substantially complete in early August. We still have a few very minor areas to tidy up and fix on that, but otherwise that project's complete. And we also had the Parks Operation Office, the southern portion of that Parks building roof replaced, excuse me. And with that, I'll pause for any questions on the engineering quarterly report from council.
Thank you very much. Questions from council? Councillor Solda.
I just want to say the map that shows the pavement conditions and the ranking in that, that's the first time I've ever seen that, and I thought that was great presentation. Thank you very much. It's going to be a lot of money involved in this as we go along through the years. Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing any other questions.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, Council. Clinton Wright, Manager of Operations for Public Works. I'll do a quick overview of some of the accomplishments in Q3. Some of the forward-facing works that we've been doing lately and really focusing on this year is pedestrian safety and traffic safety. Some of that includes school zone safety. Radar-activated beacons have been installed at Sumas and at E.J. Dunn Elementary. And those have been really successful. I've heard a lot of really positive things about those, just reminding people during school hours. A little flash reminds you got to slow down a little bit and watch out for little kids running across the street. Accessibility improvements. We are working on and continue to work on improving some of our sidewalk letdowns so that they are accessible for wheelchairs and scooters so that people can get off the road and onto the sidewalk safely. Some traffic calming initiatives in Q3. We installed a new four-way intersection, and a lot of that is to improve student and pedestrian crossing at 6th Avenue and Maitland Street. It is quite a long stretch of uninterrupted traffic on 6th Avenue, so by installing that four-way stop, we have provide an opportunity for vehicles to slow down and also provide an opportunity for pedestrians to safely cross the street there. Pedestrian safety enhancements. So we came up with an idea to throw some solar lighting on Victoria Quay Bridge and as well as Rogers Street Bridge. It's not extremely bright, it's just enough to kind of light the way. It was a cheap alternative to doing wired lighting, and so far, other than a couple of incidents of vandalism, it's actually turned out pretty good. And they're actually quite cheap to replace, so even if they do get vandalized, it's a quick fix. But it brightens up the town a little bit. Princess Road speed hump. So that was our first installation of the speed hump infrastructure, and that was also welcomed with open arms on that particular road because it does come right off Johnston Road Highway. So it has worked, and we will continue to work on that. More to come in Q4. When it comes to utility operations, water operators and sewer operators continue to do their daily tasks. A lot of this stuff doesn't get seen by the public, but it's extremely important. Unblocking sewers and doing water quality testing. You know, we can be really proud about the quality water we have in our taps in Port Alberni. And then moving on to some more roads and drainage things. I want to also highlight the hard work that staff has done. You know, a lot of these enhancements are accomplished by our staff members, and although I get to come up here and brag about the work that's done, it's them doing the hard work as well, and I don't think that we can say enough about the work that they do every single day. Having said that, we will go on to fleet and solid waste. We now have a full team in our fleet department of mechanics. They're all excellent mechanics, and they've been working hard making sure that our vehicles right now are getting ready for winter, but throughout the summer they're adapting as vehicles break down and need to get quickly repaired, such as street sweepers and a lot of the construction equipment. So thanks goes out to them. And then I'd also like to thank the solid waste drivers. When they're out there doing their work, a lot of that stuff is picked up and taken away without complaint. And they do work on SAT holidays, and they do a lot for our community. And I know that near the end of the year and Christmas time, they do get thanks with little gifts of appreciation, let's put it that way. Yeah, and that pretty much wraps things up for Public Works. I'm looking forward to Q4 and end of the year report. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much to both of you. Councillor Dame and then Councillor Haggard.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Yeah, first off, I really appreciate all of the various traffic calming measures and safety measures that we've implemented, speed humps included. But I have seen the question come up often in the public regarding what happens when a snowplow meets a speed hump. And so I thought maybe now would be a good time to ask that question.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Dame. The same department that installed the speed humps is the same department responsible for the snow removal, so obviously we're aware of the location of where these have been installed, so our operators will be keenly aware when plowing in those areas that there are those obstacles in the roadway. They will not simply keep the blade down and plow across and remove them, so yeah, we'll manage accordingly as the snow progresses.
Thank you very much. Councillor Mealy and then Councillor Haggard. Sorry, Councillor Haggard first, then Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I know that sometimes you probably think these reports are a real pain in the butt to do, but I just want you to know how much not only council appreciates hearing the good work that you do, but also it's a good reminder to the public about the good work that you do in our community. I think your departments are really the unsung heroes of the city because you keep our city working. And as you just mentioned about the quality of water that we have is probably second to none in any community in the province or probably across the country. So I just want to really thank you and your staff for just being fantastic. Thank you.
Absolutely. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was also going to say pretty much the same thing. Your department's been doing awesome. And I always speak highly of you out in public as well, just because of all the questions that I get because of especially the traffic calming initiatives, the new radar beacons. I did a community policing shift at EJ Dunn, and there were no speeders that day. And it almost took the fun out of it. You want to catch somebody and tell them, you're speeding, but it was so effective that everybody coming up the hill saw that and slowed down, and there was nobody that did over 30 in that area just because of that. So those things, and I was behind two people that decided to take Princess, like a high-speed chicane at the Molson Indy, and they ran into those bumps really quickly. You can see them dip with their lights in their car. So it's very effective, and again, and they're much like the lights on the bridges as well, which I noticed. I'm not saying they're cheap and effective, but they are cheap and effective. Really appreciate the fact that they're cost effective as well as just regularly effective. They're not in the eyes of the people driving, but they're there for the pedestrians. So really appreciate all the work that you guys and your staff has done. Unbelievable work. So thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you. Councillor Solda.
Well, I echo everything everybody else has said, but, and I really like the traffic safety, especially around the schools and the speed bumps. It makes me slow down too, so. But anyways, what I want to talk about or ask about is the accessibility on the letdowns. You're talking about by the lights, there's times when I see people on their little carts and they're trying to get their little scooters, and the way on some of those, the angle, they almost look like they're going to tip over. And it's really hard. I can't see how you would expand that. I'm not an engineer, but because there's a pole right by the lights. So how can we, are you adjusting for that? Because it really concerns me when I see somebody on a scooter and they look like they're ready to tip. And, I'll let you answer that.
Through the chair, thank you for the question. We do our utmost to follow current engineering standards behind design and installation for accessibility-related parameters at intersections. Of course, we have numerous intersections across the city that were built decades ago that don't conform to today's standards. So we do our best as we move forward on a priority basis, whether we're doing pedestrian-related safety upgrades, adding a new stop sign or traffic control, we will upgrade the letdowns to today's standards during that time frame. Generally speaking, with existing ones, we do our best on a complaint basis, or if there's a specific request from the public for that, we take a look at it. But again, it's based around priority basis, but they are built to today's engineering standards.
And just to follow up, and I understand that. I know our new, some of our new streetscapes and that we have adjusted to the new world here and comparing to what it was. And the scooter, but nobody back in the day, they didn't have scooters. So now, some of our main intersections, I would Stamp Avenue is a big one. And I just I'm really concerned on that. And if we ever do anything, I hope we adjust to that because, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, thank you very much to both of you for the reports. We will move on to Parks, Recreation, and Culture Department. Mike?
Thanks, and through the chair. Again, we're excited that our new director of Parks, Rec, and Culture will be starting very shortly. And one of our managers is currently off, but he's returning, I believe, this week, maybe even tomorrow. But our manager of Parks is not here today, so I'll just quickly highlight what is happening in Parks, and then I'll turn it over to Facilities and Culture. So with Parks, we're moving into the fall area, and we're wrapping up on a lot of our field maintenance and the last mows. Also, irrigation maintenance is continuing, and on the project area, the completion of Echo Field 2 and the tree planting at Millstone Park was completed. Key-to-key signage is ongoing, but you might start to see the signage popping up with the directional signage with the kilometers to key areas of interest. As for sport fields, in the last quarter, we did do trimming and overseeding, and then our trail counters are attached in the report. And as you can see, trail use is still very heavy, especially in the Roger and Somas area. Although McQuina is catching up there, and so is the Blair Park dike actually is the highest. I didn't look at the whole thing there in the key, but yeah. Budget overview is we're on track, and I'm looking forward to the director starting and having all the staff back. So I'll turn it over to the parks and facilities next.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm happy to deliver my Q3 facilities report. A few key activities to note. The roof replacement at the Parks Yard building on 6th Avenue was completed successfully under budget, and project involved removing existing cap flashings, cutting and patching roof blisters, priming the deck, and installing a new fully adhered 250-gram torch-on granulated cap membrane. The contractor provided a 10-year workmanship warranty, ensuring the long-term durability with reduced maintenance costs. As well, at the Echo Aquatic Center, now 58 years old, underwent its annual shutdown. Staff diligently performed deep cleaning, grouting, and painting throughout the facility. Key preventative maintenance was also completed on systems such as our circulation pumps, HVAC units, and gas chlorination equipment. These efforts ensure the pool remains safe, efficient, and ready for public use this coming season. Another project was completed in time for our cold weather season, which was the installation of the new high-efficiency boilers at the Public Works Yard. This included replacing our aging heating system and with 2 high-efficiency gas-fired boilers, a new domestic hot water tank, upgraded hydronic unit heaters, and improved ventilation. These upgrades will ensure safer, more efficient heating and air circulation for staff and operations, and we stayed within the scope of the budget. Speaking of the budget, overall, the facilities budget is strong and on pace. I'm happy to report that the trend, it again continues where we're seeing a reduction in vandalism at our city-owned facilities. Every quarter so far in 2025 has been about 50% less vandalism than in the previous quarters of last year. So hopefully that trend continues. Looking forward, staff are working with consultants to coordinate the installation of the dehumidifier. We hope to see that project go out to public tender in the next month or so. As well, staff are working with the supplier of the rental chiller to complete that purchase. We have to have all these projects completed in the 2026 June window. And finally, following council's approval of $50,000 from the McLean Mill Reserve, staff are completing the series of safety upgrades at the McLean's Mill. These included fencing around the sawmill and green chain, demolition of the train platform, viewing deck improvements and upgrades, and general site cleanup. These items have largely been completed, and it's looking really clean and safe out there. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for our manager of facilities? Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was out at McLean's Mill on Saturday for the ADEPS, the haunting, and I just want to say thank you very much for the work that has been done to make the mill safe, to cover a lot of stuff up. And it does look, the changes do look natural. It's all wood, especially the railing, so I really appreciate that you were able to keep that in keeping it safe as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. We will move on to Manager of Culture.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. This quarter, I managed to have my first look at the CIP investment program. And having looked at it, I will be bringing forward a report in Q4 and with recommending ways in which we can improve the framework and tighten up some of the reporting for that so that we can continue to invest in some of the great activities like the ones that you see outlined in my report. Also, I have already started initial meetings with additional community partners for Canada Day. And so I'm very confident as we move forward that Canada Day is going to be better than what we did last year. And one of the conversations I've had is with some of the organizers from Folkfest. And so we are hoping to be able to work together to make that event the thing that it used to be for our community. Another thing that we did this quarter was the Heritage Commission. We camped out at the Fall Fair. And I know some of you came by the booth and you were part of that. And it was extremely successful and people were glad to see us. And the mystery artifact was a hit once again. So the Heritage Commission hopes to bring a report to you with the findings from their survey. I would hope that would happen in Q4. As the manager of facilities mentioned, we have been working out at the mill, and we've been working in partnership with each other. What culture in the museum are doing is currently we're working on safety signage. We are designing it so that it will actually augment the signage that we hope to put in next summer in terms of reinterpreting a self-directed experience out there. And we're hopeful that we will be able to get at least the safety signage up by the end of Q4. When it comes to the new interpretation signage, I just wanted to bring to everybody's attention that this Wednesday at 6:30 at Echo, we will be holding a community engagement session. So anybody that would like to partake and make sure that the thing that they want to make sure is part of the interpretation out at McLean's Mill, that I encourage them to be there because we'd like to hear from absolutely everybody, and that's this Wednesday at 6:30. In terms of the Alberni Valley Museum, some of the interesting statistics, we are almost just shy of attendance records, the record for last year and at the end of Q3. So we are a quarter ahead. And in terms of overall reach, we have already surpassed what we did in all of 2024. Also, instructional hours, we are up over 50% over last year, and we still have a quarter to go. And our volunteerism, we have surpassed last year's numbers, and so we are on track to be well past the numbers that we had for 2024. Budget overview. Well, I've been working with the Director of Finance to, again, bring some clarity to the museum's budget going forward. A couple of the highlights were our museum gift shop sales this summer were quite staggering, really. In this last quarter, we almost tripled the sales in one quarter. So that will be an area I'll be looking at because that's obviously a place where we can maybe have some potential growth. Also, we are on track to get our full installment from the Young Canada Works from the Canadian Museums Association, and hopefully we will have that by the end of Q4. So, looking forward, November 28th is our community light up. This is going to celebrate our forever tree that we have planted down at Harbor Key. And I am currently looking for a Santa and some elves. So if you're all looking for a side gig, please give me a call. And I'm not looking at anybody in particular. But really, just saying. So that is a Friday night, November 28th, 4 to 7. And if it makes, there's probably a free train ride in it for you too, because we have that. Okay. So that will roll right into our temporary exhibition, which is about Christmas stories in the Alberni Valley. And if you've never had the chance to look at some of the artifacts in the collection when it comes to Christmas, we have some pretty beautiful artifacts that are Christmas related. And so that is going to be our exhibition going into Christmas. And of course, there's always the Christmas night market, which is on November 20th from 6 to 8. And then the last thing I just thought I would throw in there, because people aren't necessarily aware, is the museum does an after dark lecture series. And these are geared towards adults. And they usually focus in on unique historical and cultural topics specific to the Alberni Valley. And so in the report, you can see the next 5 that are coming on up. Sometimes they're quirky, but the one thing they are is they are of Port Alberni. So I just wanted to bring those to your attention. So I'll take any questions or volunteerism if anybody would like to sign up now.
Thank you very much. I saw Councillor Patola writing the date down, so we'll just maybe go to him to confirm his attendance.
No, I did want to say, though, thank you very much for the report. And from a previous professional encounter, I do have a link to speak with Santa Claus. So I will endeavor to ask if he's available on said date. I made sure I wrote down that date to make sure it doesn't conflict with any of his other duties.
Thank you very much. Excellent report. Can I just ask on the museum sales that were noted, is the $27,000 gross sales or net profit?
Gross sales.
Do we have a sense of what our profit margin is on those sales? And it doesn't have to be exact, but just an estimate.
We at least keystone absolutely everything.
Thank you. Councillor Haggard.
Just a couple comments and observations. First, I want to say if anybody has not gone to the museum to see the Cecil Dawson exhibit, please do so. There's only a few days left. The artwork is absolutely stunning. It is unbelievable to go see there, so please go and do that. And secondly, I'm very happy to have the stats on the trails, because all those people on Facebook who say nobody uses the trails, nobody walks on the key to key, now we can have something to support that. Yes, they do. They're very busy trails. And also, I've noticed a recurring theme in the council report today is that we're doing a much better job of applying for and receiving grants for different projects. So I'm very happy about that. And also, projects are coming in either on budget or under budget, which is fantastic. So thanks to city staff. You guys are awesome.
Thank you. Other comments? All right. Excellent report. Thank you very much. Would somebody like to move receipt of our quarterly reports? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no additional comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. We will move on to our nuisance abatement working group report.
Good afternoon, Council, Mayor and Council. Today I'm here to present the nuisance abatement working group report for Q3. The purpose of this report is to provide Council with a comprehensive strategy aimed at addressing the challenges faced by the City of Port Alberni, and with the properties that are nuisance properties. So in Q3, we had one property that is on what we call our active list. This property is at 3044 4th Avenue. It was purchased in 2010. It's had a number of bylaw violations, 7 bylaw violation notices, 6 bylaw violation notices for building standards, fire inspection reports, and remedial action letters. For Q3, there is nothing to report pending the owner's commitment to do shoring work to be completed by October the 29th. After that date, we would then look at the shoring work was necessary in order to get in and do the fire inspection reports. So we'll be looking forward to that in a couple of days to see how far it's gone. The outstanding fines for the property are about $37,000. As well, we're actively monitoring 11 other properties, and we discuss those properties on a monthly basis, depending on the number of activities that are reported. For Q4, The working group will be looking to revise and assess our evaluation criteria that we have been using and apply a stronger criteria with the rating system. So you can look forward to that for Q4. At that, I would entertain any questions.
I looked to Councillor Solda because I know what she's going to ask. Go ahead.
No, I'm not sure on this one, the squash court. Is that particular property on your radar at all? Because the plastic's been hanging on the window for many months, and that's pretty sad. And yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you for the question. It's one of a number of properties that we're looking at.
Okay, and I'm sure you're going to leave it at that too. I'll leave it for now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm wondering if Harvey View Apartments is one of your properties that are on your list of being closely watched. I remember last term they were identified as a nuisance property and we did remediating action order and they really cleaned up and they were good for a while. As soon as we took them off, it has gone steadily downhill. So thank you.
Thank you for the question. It is also one of the properties that we actively monitor. And hence the reason why we're changing our evaluation criteria and we'll be able to actually apply a bit more of a stringent criteria to the properties and as such be able to report out less broadly.
Thank you. Councillor Solda.
Madam Mayor, I just would like to know, for the public's sake, if anybody has any issues with any buildings, who, I know they contact you, is that correct? And the process, what would be the process if somebody had a complaint of any particulars?
Thank you for the question. Yes, of course, any properties that are of concern, a complaint could be made to the bylaw department. Then we would follow our due diligence at doing the investigation to determine what the status of the property is. And then there's a whole bunch of factors that we look at when a property doesn't necessarily go to the nuisance abatement working group right away, because what will happen is there'll be a number of different assessments that are made, including the number of emergency response calls that are to a property from police, fire, and BCEHS. We'll also look at our bylaws and apply the bylaws accordingly, the building standards, the property maintenance bylaws, the fire bylaws. So there's a whole range of bylaws that we would apply as well. And those are all part of our criteria that we look at as a working group. So in short, the answer is yes. If anybody's concerned about a property, they certainly can report it to the bylaw department.
Can I just follow up on that? I had understood, certainly when this working group started, that emergency calls were not taken into consideration in determining which calls were or which buildings were put on the nuisance list. And while I understand there's a category of emergency calls that may be, can you confirm if, like a 911 call for medical attention factors into this at all or not?
We look at it thank you again for the question. We look at it from a broad perspective. It's a general, not categorized as to what type of calls they are. So it might be, for example, the RCMP might say we attended 12 different calls to that property, and that's it, with no detail. So it's one of the factors is numbers, so the data, and then, but not necessarily the types of calls, because it's more about looking at the property in a general sense.
I think it's really important that we ensure if RCMP is providing us that data, that we are requesting that they exclude medical calls. I know that when we first updated our bylaw and then put together the working group many years ago, one of the concerns that we heard from members of the public was around property owners discouraging their residents from phoning for medical attention being extremely dangerous. So especially if we are going through a process of updating the criteria, I think it's just really important that we are intentional about not having emergency medical calls play into the criteria. So, yeah. Councillor Solda, did you have a follow-up?
Yes, can you just tell me how many people, because there's new people in Port Alberni, and just to explain, what is the working group and how many people are on that? Who consists of the working group?
Thank you for the question and the previous comment. We'll definitely take that into consideration as we're revising the criteria. The working group is comprised of a number of city departments. So we have infrastructure services, corporate services, bylaw. Then we have fire, police. BCEHS does not participate just because of staffing issues. We have the Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction, because if we're looking at talking about a property that's a nuisance property that has residents in it who might have subsidized rent. The ministry, the Island Health, Environmental Health, for any environmental health issues. On standby, we have the Residential Tenancy Branch from BC Housing as well, for the landlord component.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, would somebody like to move receipt? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no additional comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you very much for the report. We'll move on to bylaws, and item number 1, we have the 2026 to 2030 financial plan, bylaw number 5138.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Today we are looking for first reading of the 2026-2030 financial plan. Just a quick overview. The financial plan process is a continuous process. We've brought forward different recommendations to council and the committees of the whole to amend and make change to the financial plan. With that, we do have a formal policy now for financial planning. It enables us to have a more structured process, including the September and October Committee of the Wholes, where we do bring forward our capital and our operational recommendations for change. There are some other adjustments that have been made in the financial plan as presented today. With that, there are contractual requirements, there are benefit requirements, there's also payroll taxes that are just adjusted year to year depending on experience or what the market is. So those are in the financial plan as it's set today based on our best knowledge. A lot of these items do get consolidated and finalized closer to the end of the year, which we normally would see when we do the presentation, as we have in the past in a January or February timeline. So that is a little bit of a change for us. So we do bring forward with some estimates there that would be refined as we get closer. The timeline, of course, is increased to bring a recommendation for adoption in February, as it's in the timeline as we sit right now. With that, Council, you may add additional meetings, you may amend that timeline as you see fit. We must have that completed before May 15th of 2026. The presentation, as you see it moving forward, will include the level of service as we brought forward last year. We do see departmental reports coming forward with that level of service in November, and we'll finalize those components. The continued capital reserve display changes that we've made. And as you see the financial plan presented today, it does include the recommendations that are coming forward to the Committee of the Whole so that we could provide the information to Council today that gives us the tax impact as it sits with those recommendations. We can make change if Council does change from the recommendations that came forward from the Committee of the Whole on October 20th. But just for your information, we wanted to present the financial plan in a format that reflects the current increase for taxation, and that's currently sitting at 6.91%. Some new additions that we wanted to provide council from administration is a comparison of 2026 as it sat in 2025. That's one of the attachments that we see attached to this report versus what we currently have with a line-by-line description of what's in that line item for change. So if you look at the report today, it provides a little bit more clarity because in the financial plan as it sits normally, we have 2025 versus 2026, the increase in dollars and percentage, but we furthered that with a comparison to where we were and where we are now for the same year in 2026. So that will allow for more clarity for council and the public. We have also shifted some costs around to better reflect what services are provided. For example, engineering admin now sees GIS move to its own line item. We've also looked at museum services. I think we've heard council seek clarity on where those resources are being deployed. As we heard from the museum staff today, we are doing more on CPI. We are Community Investment Program, I'm sorry for the acronym. We are also looking at the time that we spend at McLean's Mill, or if we are looking at special events. So we've allocated that role across those line items so that we could see that in the financial plan. And we've continued to have the financial plan set so that the direction from prior years is displayed in there. So if we made changes to maintenance or parks, levels of service or street sweeper, those are within the plan. And noting that our non-market change allocation for the asset management based on what we get from BC Assessment in the role is still within the financial plan. So as we get the information from BC Assessment to reestablish what that non-market change is and for 2026, we can look at that further, but that would come in January of 2026. There is some notes after we publish the financial plan. There is a correction that needs to be made in some of the reserve calculations. So a cell reference that I will be making a change to, and I will update that and provide that to council. Also the schedule and the bylaw, the summary of the bylaw for the consolidated, when we were getting the financial plan set, those are not in the correct balances. So we'll make that change for the next meeting. Council should also look at the bylaw. Within the bylaw, there is an allocation of the community investment program and also the allocation of the traffic fines non-conditional grant that we get from the province. So it's probably time that we look at making the adjustment to those allocations based on the desire of council. So with that, I'll hand it back to council if there's any questions or any further information that's required.
Thank you. Councillor Solda.
Thanks, Andrew, for that. My question is, I noticed that there's only one meeting that's on page 54. If you go to page 54 on the schedule there for the public, and it would be great to have another open meeting for the public or roundtable discussion. I don't know what would be appropriate, but before third reading. You know, I just think one public engagement is not enough, and I would like to see a second one added, Madam Mayor.
Okay, council can add as many meetings as they'd like. And of course, all of our meetings where the budget is discussed are open meetings, and we'll have public input opportunity, but we could certainly add a second formal public input meeting. Councillor Solda.
And the only reason I'm saying that, even if it's at Echo Center or something like that, a lot of people find this be really intimidating coming here, and having a little more a roundtable or informal discussion would be interesting. I'm just putting it out there. I just think this way the public could come.
Mike, do you want to talk about our upcoming public engagement session?
Sure, we do. We do have an all-city report where, if any resident feels intimidated coming to a council meeting, there will be council there. There will be staff there, and we're open to discussing anything any resident would want to talk about, whether it's finances, about what we do for services at that upcoming event. Also, I would encourage public to reach out to any councillor. I'm sure Councillor Solda and others would love to go for coffee and talk about concerns. And they can also contact myself or staff. We're always open to discussing the budget, and we will bring comments and concerns forward.
Well, I definitely see that in November 26th, I saw that, a public engagement session or the November City Open House. But I'm just suggesting, like in January, to have a later one before the third reading or earlier one, because there's a lot of public that aren't here. I mean, we do have a lot of people, and I know in January, a lot of people aren't here either, but I just think I would like to see another one added.
Yep. If we want to do another one, we can. Councillor Mealy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to say through you to Mr. McGiver, thank you very much for the report. I really appreciate, and I'm sure the public will as well, between pages 86 and 90, where we have the 2025-2029 financial plan, what the budget was, then the 2026-2030, and then the differences for that. And I think that's key for transparency and also just too for council who has questions. We go, okay, well, why is that higher? Well, it's in this report. Why is it lower? Well, it's in this report. So really appreciate that change, and especially just the way it's formatted here. And especially being in the middle of a council meeting, it's for everyone to see online. So I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Additional comments? Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. I just want to say that this is an excellent report. I made the same observations that Councillor Mealy did, and I have to say that this feels an awful lot like an audit committee meeting.
Interesting. All right, Councillor Patola, would you like to read the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the City of Port Alberni 2026-2030 Financial Plan Bylaw Number 5138 be now introduced and read for a first time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Patola, seconded by Councillor Solda. And before I go to a vote on that, can I just ask Andrew, if we want to add an additional public input meeting specifically for the budget, should we do that now? Is it best to wait until we start the budget process with, the first meeting, or what's the best? What do you recommend?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I think what we can do is we can look at the schedule, work with corporate services to identify a time that best suits meeting that desire from council, and then bring that for recommendation.
Thank you. And council, is there general agreement that there's value to an additional session? I think in the past, we've tried to balance evening budget input meetings and afternoon ones. So maybe, if the one that we have written down is going to be in the evening, we can do a day one, vice versa. If staff can look at dates and bring that back next time we talk about the budget, that'd be great. Mike.
Through the chair, I'm just curious also, is council wanting it at Echo Center? Or are you wanting to look at a larger venue? Or is like another committee of the whole fine? I just heard Echo Center mentioned, so I just want to make sure if we're having to book rooms that we do that. Where the council is available at any time, we can bring back recommendations for another committee of the whole.
Councillor Mealy.
No, I was just, Councillor Solda can say, but I think I echo what her comments are. Some people do find this room a little intimidating, and we try our best to not be intimidating, of course. But yeah, we've had success, at least on my previous council times, we've had success either at the Field House or definitely at Echo Center as well. So just a different venue gives us a different a feeling to the meeting, and some people may, especially if it's a bus ride there, or we have to take into account all the people in the community as well. So yeah, Echo Center is, I think, a pretty good second.
Thank you. Not seeing any opposition from council to Echo Center, so I think if we can make that happen, that's great. Super. Okay, and on the first reading of the budget, it's been moved and seconded. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thanks, everyone. We'll move on to item number 2, OCP and zoning bylaw amendments for 15th Ave and Montrose Street.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So Council is being asked to consider an amendment to the official community plan and zoning bylaw for a portion of city-owned property at the corner of 15th and Montrose Street. The bylaw amendments would enable the potential sale of this land to Windward Homes in accordance with the contract of purchase and sale. The property is about 2.8 acres. And this has been underway for a fair bit of time, actually. Council originally directed, and a request for proposals was put out for potential consideration of development of these lands. And after a public process, Windward Homes was the selected potential proponent. And it was subject, of course, to going through a public official community plan process and zoning amendment process, and then subdividing off the property. As recommended by staff, council had previously directed to wait to bring this application forward until adoption of the new official community plan. However, given due to staff vacancies and the delay in the official community plan coming forward for council, staff, in conjunction with discussions with the developer, are bringing an option forward for council to potentially move forward to consider this application. As indicated, this would both amend the official community plan and zoning bylaw. The change to the community plan would be from future residential to residential, and the change to the zoning bylaw would be from future development to our primary residential zone. The zoning change to our primary residential zone would align with the surrounding neighborhood. And there's a preliminary subdivision plan that meets the minimum lot and frontage requirements of the zoning bylaw. Of course, additional details would be required to be met as part of a subdivision process if council were to finally adopt changes to the OCP and zoning bylaw. The development plan submitted by the applicant would create 13 new residential lots, and this would allow a mix of housing types from single detached dwellings to potentially up to 4 dwelling units per lot, as all our primary residential zones now allow, given the past provincial legislation changes that were required to be met. The community input received during the official community plan engagement did emphasize, limits to natural greenfield areas, and to look at infill. But in order to meet our 20-year housing growth needs identified in the city's interim housing needs report, it is going to be necessary to not only consider some new limited greenfield development, but also a lot of infill development. So in accordance, this does coincide or is supported by the city's current official community plan. In accordance with Section 475 of the Local Government Act, additional opportunity was required to be provided for the public to provide input prior to a public hearing. Mail-outs were sent out to residential areas, and we received 23 responses. There is a full summary attached to the staff report, but in general, some of the comments received were there is support for increased housing in Port Alberni. Some people were opposed to the location and scale of this development, concerned that the current OCP update is not being considered as part of this application, concerned that there would be impact to the natural features and habitat, and concern that there would be increased traffic. A public hearing will be required if council provides first and second reading, and statutory notice will be issued as moving forward. As somewhat previously indicated, under the interim housing needs report, this development could potentially create between 13 and 52 dwelling units. That equals about 1 to 4% of the housing needs requirement that we need to provide over the next 5 years. In summary, council is being asked to consider the OCP and zoning amendments that would potentially enable the creation of 13 residential lots, and staff are recommending that council consider first and second reading and set a public hearing date. I would make one note on the public hearing process. We will certainly hope that there is no rotating postal strike at the time of when we're doing this public hearings. But if there is, staff would need to consider hand delivering public notices and using a courier for any mail outs to owners outside of the community. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for the report. Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Director Smith. I'm looking at the subdivision plan, and it gives a really nice overview of the surrounding area and the streetscape of Bruce Street and 17th Street in particular is what I'm looking at. And I see how on those streets, the residences are built on the town side of the street, if you will, and then there's the street, and then there's the future development site forest on the other side of the street. So the street provides a natural, well, not a natural, but the street provides a fire break buffer between the forested area and the residences. And of course, this isn't always true because in other areas of that city-owned lands picture, we see residences backing right onto the forest area. Obviously, that might be a reason that people would like houses built with a backyard that goes into the forest. But I'm thinking with the concern of wildfire hazards, and particularly the way that the environment has changed since a number of these subdivisions were put in, if there isn't some wisdom in creating subdivisions whereby the back of the subdivided lots do not enter directly onto the forest, but in fact have either a laneway, or I note there's a pathway here, but it's probably a forested pathway, or some type of break to at least deter wildfire and provide access to any wildfire fighting that might need to be required within the city limits. Sorry for the long question.
No, that's okay. And although not 100% related to what your question was, one of the reasons this site was selected, and somewhat the unusual shape for it, is on the eastern side there is a man-made ditch and berm on that boundary. So and that from our engineering perspective would not be something we'd want to relocate or underground or pipe. So that almost creates somewhat of that interim, that barrier between what this potential subdivision would be and the forest beyond. And it accomplishes somewhat what you're talking about, but also it was a logical choice to ensure, and that will stay city-owned. So it is not part of, so on the toe side of the berm, stays on city-owned property, not part of the development itself. So there will be, if this was to move forward, kind of that, a break there.
Thank you. Additional questions or comments? Seeing none, Councillor Mealy, would you like to read the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'll move that the official community plan amendment, 15th Avenue at Montrose Street, bylaw number 5110, be now introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no additional questions on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move that zoning amendment, 15th Avenue at Montrose Street, bylaw number 5111, be now introduced and read a first time.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move that the official community plan amendment, 15th Avenue at Montrose Street, bylaw number 5110, be read a second time.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no questions or comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move that zoning amendment, 15th Avenue at Montrose Street, bylaw number 5111, be read a second time.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no questions or comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move that amending bylaws number 5110 and 5111 be advanced to a public hearing on Monday, November 24th, 2025 at 6 p.m. right here at City Hall Council Chambers.
Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. Thank you for the report. And we'll move on to item number 3, zoning bylaw amendment for 5405 Argyle Street.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So Council is being asked to consider an amendment to the zoning map amendment to the property at 5405 Argyle Street. The applicant is requesting to rezone a portion of the property from the W2, which is the waterfront industrial zone, to the W1, which is the waterfront commercial zone. So this property is located at the entrance of Harbor Quay at the intersection Argyle Street and Bird Avenue. And it's currently has split zoning on the property. With the front part of the picture, you see where the Pinto is in the waterfront commercial zone, and then a former marine industrial warehouse off of Bird Avenue being W2, which is our waterfront industrial zone. So the applicant is wishing to rezone the W2 portion to match with the balance of the property in order to allow the warehouse space to be developed into restaurant expansion and commercial kitchen. The official community plan is general commercial in this area, and the proposed W1 zoning aligns with the proposed land use for this area. The zoning amendment would allow for a restaurant to extend and expand, and also aligns with the intent of the waterfront commercial zone. Split zoning is something that sometimes occur, and it's where you've got multiple zones on one legal parcel. This is not something that we generally look at doing currently, and only under very special circumstances. But given a previous use that there was an industrial warehouse on that, that's the history behind that. But from a staff point of view, we're always looking to simplify the zoning bylaw so that it's easier for the property owner and easier for staff to implement. So again, staff support this rezoning to rezone the portion of this property from waterfront industrial to waterfront commercial in order to support the expansion of a commercial kitchen and restaurant, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you. I hope this is going to give us more bennies at one of our favorite breakfast restaurants. Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the director. When I'm looking at the overhead photograph on page 134, I don't know if we can get to that, but there's a beautiful yellow triangle that shows the area that would all be put together, numbered 13074, and beside it there's a purple and pink diagram that suggests you were just completing the rectangle to make it full instead of the strange cutout. But when you go back to the picture on the left, that strange cutout is part of a larger building. And so I'm wondering the effect of rezoning, again, a portion of a building with the split zoning as you've described. Are we creating a new split zoning for the building beside it, or is that just a wrong view of the picture?
Okay, I think I understand. If you look at the photo on page 137, the garage kind of portion where you see the public notice sign, that's the portion of so it's all one legal parcel. And the building code will resolve if there's any building code, like a building permit, and will resolve any issues between the building spaces to ensure that it's properly by code. So what we're doing is we're trying to rezone this small portion of this property that covered the part of the building that used to be this marine warehouse. And it's to go all to the waterfront commercial zone. And then if approved by council, a building permit would resolve any building code related issues. And it's not changing anything else on any other legal parcel, if it's answering the councilor's question.
Thank you. That does not.
Okay.
Because I understood that part. That was
Okay.
very well put and clear in your report. So looking at that same photograph, if one was to have a larger photograph off the right-hand side of it, there is a building that adjoins it. And in the diagram of the aerial view, it seemed like half of the building that adjoins it was actually this building.
Yeah.
Is that a misrepresentation in the aerial view?
Yeah, please understand the aerial photography and the property lines that are superimposed of it are not survey accurate. So this will not impact the adjacent building. Now they may, many of these buildings are zero lot line, so they're built right next to each other. But this rezoning only impacts the one legal parcel.
Thank you. Additional comments? Councillor Dame.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think this makes a lot of sense for the area. And so if there's no other comments, I'll go ahead and make the motion. I move that zoning amendment 5405 Argyle Street, bylaw number 5134, be now introduced and read a first time.
Seconded by Councillor Solda. Any comments? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Dame.
I move that zoning amendment 5405 Argyle Street, bylaw number 5134, be read a second time.
Moved by Councillor Dame, seconded by Councillor Solda. Seeing no additional comments, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Dame.
And I move that amending bylaw number 5134 be advanced to a public hearing on November 24th, 2025 at 6:00 p.m. in City Hall Council Chambers.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dame, seconded by Councillor Solda. Seeing no comments, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you very much for the report. And item number 4, we'll move on to animal control and pound bylaw amendment, and this is just a final adoption. I will go to Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move that animal control and pound bylaw number 5126-1, 2025 be now finally adopted, signed by the mayor and corporate officer, and number 5126-1.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Haggard, seconded by Councillor Solda. Seeing no comments, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And on to correspondence for action. We have one item, and that is a letter dated October 21st, 2025 from the Vancouver Island Regional Library requesting appointment of board trustee and alternate for 2026. And I did not put names in here, although I almost did, but I did want to just confirm with Councillor Patola if you are able to be the trustee this year again, with council support, and then I would suggest Councillor Haggard as the alternate.
One more year, finish the race strong.
One more year. You tried to get off before, but happy to hear that. We're very happy to have you. So I will move that pursuant to the Library Act, Council appoint Councillor Patola as the City of Port Alberni's representative to serve on the Vancouver Island Regional Library Board of Trustees for a term ending December 31st, 2026. Seconded by Councillor Haggard. Any comments here? And I will just comment that thank you so much for agreeing to continue on. I think that the library board, given the escalating costs that we are seeing, really important to have an engaged trustee there. So appreciate the work that you are doing. It's a very important service for our community. Seeing no other comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed, and I will move that pursuant to the Library Act, Council appoints Councillor Haggard as the City of Port Alberni's alternate representative to serve on the Vancouver Island Regional Library Board of Trustees for a term ending December 31st, 2026. Seconded by Councillor Mealy. Seeing no comments, same comments. Thank you, Councillor Haggard, for your excellent work as alternate.
Happy to support Councillor Patola.
Thank you. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. On to proclamations. We have a letter dated October 14th, 2025, requesting council declare June 30th as Indigenous Survivors Day, National Blanket Ceremony Day in Port Alberni. Would somebody, moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Mealy, and would you like to comment, Councillor Mealy?
If I may, Madam Mayor, so first of all, it's a nice letter we've been written. It does start to say, this request comes from my heart and not made on behalf of any organization or group. So instead of just a blanket proclamation, maybe we can have some time and forward this to our local First Nation neighbors for their comments, just because I'm not too sure I need a little more research into this, obviously, but I would just hate for our local neighbors to have an issue with someone just making a proclamation from somewhere else. That's all.
Yeah, I thought the same, and I think it's a positive initiative. I would suggest that we could just add subject to support from Sachot and Hupachesit. I think somebody is reaching out, suggesting the day be proclaimed, certainly with good intent, and we can connect with Sachot and Hupachesit before we formally do that. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd agree to that. Just the mere fact is it's not until June 30th, so we have time to make the proclamation. I just want to do it what's right for the people within our valley.
Absolutely. So,
And that's fine with the mover.
Everyone's happy with a friendly amendment, just adding subject to support from Sachot and Hupachesit. Okay, great. Any other comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And we'll go to correspondence for information. Corporate Officer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just 2 items today from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, just providing some updates to the small-scale multi-unit housing legislation and audit committee meeting minutes from June 24th.
Thank you. Would anyone like to comment on the items of correspondence? Seeing none, would somebody like to move receipt? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And report from in camera, I will go to our corporate officer.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. Council releases from in camera the following. Council endorsement of city facility closures from Monday, December 22nd to January 2nd, and notice of execution of a 5-year community investment program agreement with the Alberni Drug and Alcohol Prevention Society, ADAPS, to host their annual fundraising event, The Haunting at McLean Mill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On to council reports. Item number 1, council and regional district reports. Are there any items councillors would like to highlight? Okay, seeing none. Motion to receive from Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And then just for formal receipt here, the city has received 2 really beautiful gifts. So we wanted to formally receive them at a council meeting. The first is from Sachot First Nation, and it was gifted to us at the opening of SOMAS Hall. I'll just show it here. And it is just a really gorgeous piece of art here. So our process is that we, want to recognize in public and appreciate Sachot for the beautiful gift. And we will be displaying this at City Hall. And the second is a gift from the Port Alberni Friendship Centre that was gifted to us at their 60th anniversary celebration that they recently had. Again, just want to really recognize the Friendship Centre for the beautiful gift, but also for all of the work that they do in our community and have done for a very long, long time. And this will be displayed at City Hall as well. So thank you for those. Yes, yeah, it does actually. And would somebody like to move receipt of both of these gifts? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Any comments? Clayco. And just want to thank Councillor Solda for attending on Council's behalf the Friendship Centre 60th anniversary. Okay. And on the motion to receive, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. On to new business. Item number 1, 2026 to 2030 financial plan, operational amendments, recommendations from the October 20th, 2025 Committee of the Whole. Councillor Solda, would you like to read these?
Madam Mayor, I move that council amend the draft 2026-2030 financial plan as follows. Reduce line 1, general purposes, taxes, $1,517,361. And number 2, reduce line 28220, project to be determined, council direction, $2,017,361. And 111, increase line 28211, transfer to reserves, asset management reserve, $500,000.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Patola. Comments? Okay, discussions were had at Committee of the Whole meeting. I wasn't able to be at that one. I was traveling to Toronto, but I just wanted to note that I think these were excellent decisions, looking at, reducing our tax requisition as much as possible this year while still balancing the need to put money away for infrastructure. So I'm happy to see that these recommendations were brought to council. And with that, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. Item number 2, 2026 to 2030 Financial Plan Corporate Services Operational Budget, recommendation from the October 20th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting. And I will go to Councillor Patola if you'd like to read these.
I move that council approve an increase in the draft 2026-2030 financial plan as follows. I, increase line 21215, legal fees by $25,000 for a total of $50,000 through 2030. I, increase lines 21211 and 21212, software licensing by $5,000 in 2026, and an additional 5% each subsequent year from 2027 to 2030.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Patola, seconded by Councillor Dame. Any comments? Okay. Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Item number 3 from the Committee of the Whole, we've got City of Port Alberni Neighbourhood Mitigation Strategy, recommendation from the October 20th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting. And so, Councillor Solda, I did note that you wanted to possibly change one of these, so we can change that as it's discussed in red, or you're welcome to read the motion that you're interested in as well.
I can read till we discuss it as
Councillor Mealy, would you like to read these?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, absolutely, Madam Mayor. Move that council endorse the neighborhood mitigation strategy dated October 14th, 2025.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Haggard. Discussion. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm quite concerned about the length of time it's taking for the temporary use permit to come back to council regarding the Bread of Life and the shelter beds that they have for extreme weather events. I thought it would come back after the neighborhood mitigation strategy was discussed and brought forward. So can staff tell me when it's going to be coming forward?
Thank you for the question through the chair. It is coming back on November 24th, or is it? Can you just check? It's due to having to go back out for public comment. Again, just following the legal way of public hearings, is that we did have one. It was not resolved at that meeting, so we did delay the decision until another meeting. So now we have to have another public hearing, which has to go through the proper notice period and out to public. So we did have some conversations about this internally, and that's the best advice we could get from not only us, but also other communities that have dealt with similar challenges.
I guess my concern is double because tomorrow there's going to be an extreme weather event with gale force winds and very heavy rains, and there's not going to be shelter beds available for people who need them.
Can I just confirm that staff has taken no action? A specific part of the motion when we asked for the neighborhood mitigation plan was to enable the Bread of Life continued operations with the overnight shelter until we worked through our process with no action.
Yeah, thank you for the question through the chair. That is correct. No action will be taken, and they can continue operations until the decision is made.
Thank you. Councillor Mealy.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. That was my understanding as well, just to ensure that even though this is taking a little longer, again, like to get it right rather than just get it done. But it doesn't affect what the Bread of Life is doing right now. They're able to still take people in and keep them out of the weather. So that's, no news is almost good news in this way, as we just let staff and the process go through its procedures, and then we'll get to the decision eventually. But until then, people can still go to the Bread of Life for the services.
Additional comments? I just wanted to say that I did watch the meeting, although I wasn't able to be at the Committee of the Whole, and I appreciate that I think the plan had a lot of good steps, good information in it. A point that I think is really important to make clear, and I've seen people kind of talking a little bit about this online as well, I want to be extremely clear, and I think we were the first time we had this conversation, but there was maybe less people watching our discussion at that point. There is no intent to blame the issues that exist in the Uptown on the Bread of Life. And I want to be extremely clear about this because I actually asked for the neighborhood mitigation plan because I heard concerns coming forward from members of council about the state of the neighborhood. When I voiced at the original meeting my support generally for the temporary use permit, but recognizing that there was concern from some members of council about how to move forward, I specifically said, and then members of council echoed, that while we recognize there are issues in the Uptown, the Bread of Life, the services they provide, keeping people housed, fed, and safe is not adding to the issues in the Uptown. Taking that service away would add to the issues in the Uptown. So I want to be extremely clear about that. While I think that there were members of council who wanted to ensure that we, alongside reviewing the temporary use permit, had the opportunity to also look at concerns that were coming forward from the neighbors. There was no intent to make this a Bread of Life problem. This is not a Bread of Life problem, and I want to be extremely clear about that. The Bread of Life does excellent work in our community, taking care of some of our most vulnerable residents. And on behalf of council, I certainly am extremely grateful for the services that they provide. Recognizing the concerns around timeline, this is longer than I had thought it would take as well. I didn't understand when I asked for the neighborhood mitigation plan that we would need to do additional outreach to the community. So my apologies on that for not understanding. I do want to be extremely clear that the Bread of Life is permitted to continue to enable as a result of that being in my initial motion. Lastly, I just want to thank the engagement that we have had from members of the community on this. I think that it's always, we often make these decisions with very few people in the room, with very few people paying any attention at all. And I think that sometimes when discussions get hard, we hear from members of our community that we don't always hear from, and I think that's extremely important. So I appreciate how many people have come out, not just to council meeting today and committee of the whole, but how many people have engaged online talking about the importance of this service. I think it's extremely important for members of council and other community members as well to see how valued this service is. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you. Very well said, Madam Mayor. Thank you. When I asked my question, I wasn't asking about the regular shelter beds. I believe they have some beds that are open and available, but they only open up during extreme weather events. Those were the beds I was referring to. Are they still able to open up those beds for an extreme weather event?
The city will not be taking any action that would stop them from doing that.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The motion that's put forward is pretty straightforward and I think supported in general, but we've had some discussion about other things that aren't entirely related to the motion and not wanting to get too far off topic, but it seemed like this would be my opportunity to join in the conversation. So I look to you, Madam Mayor, for your guidance on telling me when to shut up. And I may follow that. Thank you. So I think Dame Julie Andrews has a lot of instructive wisdom on this issue. And she sang a great song, which I don't know I should sing to you, but it starts with, let's start at the beginning. It's a very good place to start. And when you read, it's ABCs, and when you sing, it's do, re, mi's. And in my professional career, I found that, in fact, starting at the beginning was the only place to start. Numerous times was I involved in discussions about what should or shouldn't be, what the law is or isn't, and nobody ever bothered to read the book. So when we start at the beginning, I look at the zoning for different areas around the Uptown. And I am not making these comments with regards to a final decision on the issue. These are just my observations. And I wonder why we have gone all the way down the road of asking a very important question, although a question that, in my opinion, doesn't need to be answered. Again, my understanding. The zoning for the lot at the Bread of Life is C7. A C7 zoning permits a lot of things, including hotels, motor hotels, and hostels, as well as social service centers. So those are items that are already permitted in that location. A rezoning, as I understand it, would be to the zone which is P1 institutional, because P1 permits supported housing and transition housing. Neither, and dormitories, none of which, in my opinion, and solely my opinion, is what the Bread of Life does. Supportive housing, again, you will now be stuck into an argument about who says what is defined how, and there are multiple definitions for what is supportive housing throughout the social services industry. If you speak with a BC Housing representative, they will have a different definition than someone from the not-for-profit housing network of British Columbia. So just because the words are there, I'm not saying it's definitive, but in my understanding, supportive housing is a housing that has embedded supports in it. Transition housing is housing that is semi-permanent with the desire that individuals will be provided opportunities to transition to more permanent housing, but often ends up being permanent housing in and of itself. Neither of those, in my observations, reflect what the Bread of Life does. What, in my observation, reflects what the Bread of Life does is a hostel. Now, we are, I think, commonly refer to hostels as places where young backpackers go for inexpensive dormitory lodgings overnight. But the Merriam-Webster dictionary, which is, at least if not authoritative, instructional, says a supervised institutional residence or shelter as for homeless people. So again, just my reading, hostel would certainly fit the definition of what occurs or is being proposed to continue occurring at the Bread of Life. Now, these are not my decisions to make. These are decisions that council has vested in another body that determines these decisions. And so I am not saying that a decision under the appropriate authority is wrong. I would not question that. I would simply question sometimes the underlying assumptions of those decisions, but I would not change the decision. It's not within my power, and it's not within my purpose. But what I have encountered through this process is a lot of compassion, a lot of imploring for compassion. And I find that personally to be sad, that anyone would have the opinion that council is not compassionate. I think the last 3 years have provided enough evidence of council's compassion, and I would hope that we live in a municipality and a society where compassion is the starting place and not something that has to be forced upon people who are not. This, to me, has never been an issue of compassion, and although the arguments seem to center around it, I find them unhelpful because they don't speak to what the issue was. And the issue not being compassion, the issue not being appropriate mental health facilities in the community. The issue not being how to solve homelessness or poverty or any of the other social issues that arise and require compassion. The issue is simply a zoning issue. It seems to me the zoning issue, in my opinion, is inconsequential and didn't need to be asked in the first place. And the problem with the zoning issue is one of inclusion of all individuals within our society. That being individuals who are homeless, individuals who can enter and take advantage of a dry shelter, individuals who cannot enter and take advantage of a dry shelter and still reside on the streets, individuals that choose a different shelter, as there are 3 in our community. So I think the end of my epitaph here is that we as a council, in my opinion, need to provide for the needs of everyone in our community. That includes businesses that pay taxes, that support social programs, that benefit people who benefit from social programs. It's all a closed loop. So we shouldn't be pointing fingers. We certainly shouldn't be yelling that somebody isn't doing something we want them to do without recognizing the things that same person is already doing. And council, in my opinion, is effectively and intentionally working on resolving social issues in this community for the benefit of all. That being said, I've heard many people come and express their opinions at the COW meeting about how more things need to be done. And I agree, more things need to be done, progress needs to be made, and I would invite all of those individuals who spoke and others who have heard them speak to follow the imploration of, I think Miss Deacon was one of them, to say we need to get together and do more. We do, I agree. We need to get together and do more. But that doesn't mean that what we are doing is not effective, is not intentional, and is not directed at solving the problem. And once the problem is solved, then we can move on to other things. So at this point in time, I'm not sure, as I stated, why we're discussing this. I don't think it needs to be discussed, but other people do, and I'm charged in a position where I have to listen to this discussion and add something intelligent wherever I can. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Patola. I'm going to go to our CAO for just comment on if we have considered whether a temporary use permit is needed.
Thank you for the question. And I always appreciate Councillor Patola's insights on all these matters. We have some great discussions. On this one here, I was not aware of that definition out of that dictionary to this point, but I do know that in history in Port Alberni, we have not treated this type of shelter space as a hostel. But I would, if council would like me to, is to get a legal review of our current bylaw and our practices to make sure that we are interpreting it properly. So again, as administration, we always want a continuous improvement. Again, I never thought of the way that Councillor Patola looked at this issue. Not that I'm the approving officer, but I was able to have a quick discussion with our approving officer, and he recommended the same, that we would need a legal review where we have practiced it not as interpreted this time, but are we interpreting it correctly? So our stance was that a temporary use permit is needed, and currently we're going through that process. But administration, again, is open to getting a legal review on this.
Thank you. Imagine we could get a legal opinion quite quickly. And if it did determine that even though we may have a practice that is different, that the current use fits into the legal definition, I would imagine the temporary use permit would be withdrawn and the activities would continue.
Again, I would want to wait until I got the legal review to see what process would happen. Again, I'm not sure how many times that the city has also looked into this type of temporary use permit in past, and if the public was aware on how we were interpreting. So again, I would like to get that legal review, but our manager of development, or director of development services is in the room too. He can
Thank you.
provide
I think
more
let's get a comment from Scott, and then I think either way, getting a legal opinion is prudent.
Certainly, thank you for the question. So past practice on hostels, they have always been, when we've considered them, issued business licenses for when we're looking at their zoning. They are commercial entities that, as Council Pertola said, often provide inexpensive lodging for the traveling public, not the use that is being currently considered under the temporary use permit that the Bread of Life provides. So I just want to be clear that that's how that the hostel use in our zoning bylaw has been considered. And of course, but if council so wishes, we could get a legal opinion. We would certainly need to not only think about its implication for the Bread of Life, but how hostel is being permitted in throughout the community. Because it's not just, it is not only permitted use in the C7 zone, but some other zones. So we would certainly want to have a bit more thought than just looking at this very narrow question.
Thank you. So just by way of a typical process, if council or if staff gets a legal opinion, that would come to council in camera, as it is a legal opinion, and could move forward from there. But can I have confirmation that this won't slow down the current process that we have in place with the temporary use permit?
Thank you. And through the chair, I think we would move forward with both processes. If something changes, then we would let everybody know in the situation. But I believe in the essence of time that we continue on with the public notices and move forward with the TUP coming to November 24th meeting, just to make sure that nothing is slowed down. If it's a harder discussion than what I know, like I am not sure. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't predict what the advice from the legal team will be.
Thank you, appreciate that. And I'll go to Councillor Mealy, and apologies to council that myself and Councillor Patola decided to talk about the temporary use permit instead of the neighborhood mitigation plan. So probably back to neighborhood mitigation plan.
No,
now.
I had some comments, and then with the staff, I'm gonna keep that until the legal advice is given. But I do want to just echo what Director of Corporate Services said is we're not talking about one piece of property. We're talking about every piece of property that has that same zoning. So we really got to be careful when we look at that. The other thing I'll say about the temporary use permit is this is potentially the second temporary use permit for a 3-year term, and then that's it. Am I correct in saying that? I want to just clarify this.
Yeah, through the chair, you are correct.
So meaning that there is going to be some finality to this eventually, because council can't give a third temporary use permit. So we, and I say we, the community as a whole, Bread of Life, the city, and everybody involved is really going to have to figure this out in the next 3 years, because it won't be able, unless we have a proper final solution, which Councillor Patola, and I respect your compassion and intelligent comments, not just at this meeting, but the previous one, and the mayor as well. But we need to come to a final solution. And then I picked that up from Councillor Patola last meeting. It's not this issue right here. It's what's going to happen in the end. What's the final solution? And the mere fact is, if the temporary use permit's being used, the final solution will come whether we like it or not in 3 years. Simple as that. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay. Yeah, the motion to endorse the neighborhood mitigation plan has been moved and seconded. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Item B, Councillor Mealy, would you read that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll move that council postpone discussion to December 2025 regarding allocation of $120,000 from line 22130 within the draft 2026-2030 financial plan to fund the Clean Team program, and direct administration to pursue grant funding for the Clean Team program.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Dame. And Councillor Solda, did you want to discuss?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, at the Committee of the Whole, we decided that we would pause the clean team, and I see that we are going to look for some money, but I don't know if Councillor Patola, would this is not, you don't need to excuse yourself or anything, just making sure. Okay. Okay. So I really think that we should, okay, I know we talked about we need to go out to procurement, and I agree with the $100,000, but I believe also the $20,000, I know there was concerns with council regarding having for the 2 months, November and December, the clean team, and suddenly we have to go out to procurement. It's not saying the clean team, that existing clean team through CMHA is not doing a good job or anything, but it's the way we have to do it with the $100,000 on top for following budget. So I believe that we need to have the $20,000, and we should have the clean team through November and December. And Councillor Dame, I understand where you were going with the thoughts and everything when you brought it at the COW meeting and the motion was made and I voted for it too. But, you know, going around the community and looking at all the debris and all the garbage and everything all over the streets and that, it's not being picked, well, some people are picking it up, but it's not. And, you know, we have a lot of issues throughout the community with garbage, and it's not just on 3rd Avenue, it's all sectors. And driving through the alleys, which I seem to be doing a lot lately, and taking a look, there's so much garbage behind the alleys and that. And it is not just from the homeless. I know people, garbage bags of garbage, diapers. I mean, how many homeless people are you seeing with, you know, 6 dirty diapers across the alley, and it's in a bag and that? So it's just happens in our community, and I think we should have that opportunity. Anyways.
Councillor Mealy.
So I was going to ask for a point of clarification. I understand what Councillor Solda is speaking to. If I go back, the $120,000 was under new business 1C, and that was the same motion at the Committee of the Whole meeting. It was B, where we were allocating $22,000 in 2025 for the launch of the clean team operated by the group that we were talking about. So those are two different, so the $120,000, if I may be so bold to say, $120,000 is still for next year. That doesn't include the $22,000 that the committee did not recommend for this year.
Thank you. I want to go to Councillor Patola because he had his hand up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think Councillor Mealy is trying to be helpful in keeping us on track, and I think that Councillor Solda has some good points. So, for clarity's sake, there is no motion that directs spending to any particular group, which is appropriate, and I don't think that Council should ever make a motion directing spending to a particular group. The reason for that is because Council has previously passed a procurement policy. That removes the issue from Council's hands. The policy then is applied by administration. As long as the procurement policy is applied correctly and the budgetary dispensation is one that has been previously authorized, Council, in my opinion, again, has no place in that decision because Council's job is to make policy, direct policy, and ensure that policy is followed. Now, having said that, we have just recently, most recently, passed a motion to endorse the neighborhood mitigation strategy, which I must say I thought was an excellent strategy. I found the report to be much more extensive than any of the research I had been involved in. And I do make a point when I attend FCM, UBCM, and BCNPHA, lots of letters. I go to see lots of letters. The different types of crisis teams that have been recommended were nowhere near as complete as this report produced by Ms. Mazzotti. So I'm glad that we're supporting the mitigation strategy. Unfortunately, the mitigation strategy starts with neighborhood agreements and clean team. So although opinion may vary greatly on whether or not the clean team is a useful part of the mitigation strategy, it is in fact a part of the mitigation strategy. So it will come as no surprise that people may criticize the decisions of council, but council has decided that the mitigation strategy is going to be endorsed, and the first part of it is a clean team. The reasons for the value of the clean team and the place it sits within that mitigation strategy is well thought out in the report. I don't need to petition for its inclusion or not. So, but based on that, if we're going to endorse the strategy and the strategy says this is the place to start, I think that we should be starting there. And so the idea of postponing the discussion until later on and waiting for grant funding to materialize before we commit to doing the clean team, I think is a mistake. I think that the whole point of the mitigation strategy is not in a vacuum of its own. The whole point of the mitigation strategy, Madam Mayor, I could have this wrong, but it seemed to me that it was suggested because it's an intricate part of bringing the community together, meeting the needs of the entire community, and facilitating the continued operation of a homeless shelter, an overnight shelter, right? So to say on one hand, as I've heard some people who will be nameless say that we need a overnight shelter, but it's ridiculous to have a clean team, I think they're missing the global nature of the problem solving that council and administration has undergone, which is one supports the other and the other supports the one. They go hand in hand. And our strategy as a council for community safety and for community benefit is to have all of the pieces in place that will benefit the business community, that will benefit the residential community, that will benefit the service providing community, so that they can all exist together without contention between any of the parties. And it goes further than that, of course, because it goes into our emergency services, it goes into the ability for the community to attract doctors, because we want to build a community that is welcoming and inviting to all, and where everyone in it is welcoming and inviting to all. So I am speaking, Madam Mayor, against on item 3B, and suggesting that council should not postpone the discussion, but should take up the torch and run forward with the discussion and bring the mitigation strategy into place as soon as possible for the benefit of all.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it maybe our corporate officer could speak to requirements for the process. An elected official has to declare their own conflict of interest.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's correct. While we're able to provide information around conflict of interest legislation, it ultimately is a councillor's own ability to decide whether they are in conflict or not.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion that's been made. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. While the clean team is part of a neighborhood mitigation strategy, I don't think it has anything to do with having a shelter. They're not connected in any way, shape, or form. And the reason I'm supporting waiting on whether to fund the clean team or not is at UBCM, there was a conversation between the CEO and the mayor and a councillor regarding getting funding for a clean team. And as my understanding is, those conversations are ongoing. So I would like to wait and see the outcomes of those conversations. If we get confirmation that we're going to get funding, then we can move ahead. If they say, no, we're not going to give you funding, then it can come back about whether we're going to finance the $120,000 or not. So that's why I'm supporting waiting to see if we're going to get funding or not, because I think it should be coming, I'm assuming, soon. In the big scheme of things, I don't know how long soon is, but I think we should wait till we get confirmation if we see that funding or not. Then it can come back, then we can make that decision. I think we're all on board, there is a need for it, but I don't want to charge the taxpayers if we can get funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Solda and then Councillor Dame.
Well, I can concede with everybody else, but the thing is, I just want you to be aware. We all know Christmas holidays are coming up, and government, provincial, federal government take Christmas holidays and et cetera, et cetera. So I have no problem waiting, but sometimes waiting is not the answer either.
Thank you. Councillor Dame.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, my justification for proposing that we delay it in the first place was based on a sense that it was going to be beneficial to provide time and space for us to make sure that ample opportunity is given through our procurement process and also through our budget discussion and looking at opportunities for funding. I agree that that there is time is of the essence, and we do want to move on this as quickly as possible. And we are endorsing the neighborhood mitigation strategy, showing that that this is a part of the overall vision. But I think it matters how we go about it. And I wanted to make sure that given the budget requirement and that because it's over $100,000, it's within our procurement policy that we do put it out. I'm assuming that takes some time to do, but maybe that's a question that we could ask is in our procurement policy, do we know how much time is required for that request to be put out to the community? Is that something that it's like for a few days and we just see what applicants come in, or is it like it has to sit for a month or two?
Thanks for the question and through the chair. First of all, it would depend on who's running the program. So if we do get provincial funding and the province decides to take it on themselves, they would do the procurement, and then we would be taken out of that funding opportunity. If the funding is provided to us to enter into a service, we would first start with an agreement with it. We would come to council for the funding and the parameters around that funding. Once we receive that, then we would create an RFP and we would go out to seek quotes or proposals for the services that are laid out there and the cost. So I'm not sure if it would be an RFP or if it would be a tender or how we would do it, but through a procurement process. That usually takes about 4 weeks to complete, and then we would award. In the RFP also would be the time for agency to set up to be able to run said program. So I can't speak to how long from the date we receive funding and the okay to the exact date of starting the operations until we receive the RFPs and we're able to evaluate them based on the criteria that was set out. Now, one of the criteria could be timeline, depending on how we are putting it out. But first of all, it's about where we get the funding from, whether it's our program or not, and then we would take next steps. So I know we're in current conversations with the province on many different funding streams and many different programs. And as soon as we get information on that, we will notify council.
Thanks. Yeah, so I appreciate that. And my stance continues to be that for this to be a fair and transparent and thorough process, I think that we just need to give it a bit of time. So I'd still prefer not to see us put funding into the budget immediately and take the time to make sure that we have done our due diligence in trying to find funding and allowing equal opportunity to all organizations in town that might be interested.
Thank you. Councillor Solda.
Just to be clear, I agree with you. It has to go to procurement, the 120, but maybe I shouldn't have talked about it during this number B. I'm just saying the 20,000 we had discussed at the committee of the whole was an addition, right, to continue with the program that we had for the 2 months, and then we would go out to procurement. So I'm just want that cleared up. But if this council all of us, decide that we would rather wait and pursue grant funding, I have no problem with that. But in the meantime, I just assume that. Now, in January, February, we might get the snowfall, everything's covered, what we don't see, you know, like, I guess, whatever you, however you want to put it like that. But I'm just saying to clean up what's out there right now in this community, because it's not, it's a lot of garbage. Anyways, I'll leave it like that.
Thank you. I do actually feel really strongly that the program should be funded sooner rather than later. However, I do feel uncomfortable, given that the current provider of the program is CMHA, having that discussion with all of us in the room, recognizing that Councillor Patola has not declared a conflict. I'm wondering if we continue the discussion that we are having, which is about going to procurement, and then we circle back for an additional discussion, at which point, if we wanted to talk about the current provider, Councillor Patola could determine if he feels in conflict or not. Because I do think there's a conversation to be had there, and I'd like to follow up on some of Councillor Solda's comments. Okay, Councillor Mealy. Okay, so we do have a motion moved and seconded around the postponing the discussions. Any further comments on that piece? Okay, seeing none. On the motion, all in favor? And opposed? Motion carried. We do have 2 more items here, so we can continue on with those, and then I'll come back to the current contract.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that Council direct administration to continue working with the province to participate in the provincial encampment and homelessness response, the Heart and Hearth pilot program.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Solda. Discussion? Seeing none. On the motion, all in favor? Carried. None opposed. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that Council direct administration to seek funding opportunities for the initiatives outlined within the neighborhood mitigation strategy in collaboration with existing social service agencies that offer similar services.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Solda. Comments? Councillor Patola.
Yeah, so the wording of these motions, again, seem to me to be overly directive by council. I don't know why council would have to direct administration to work in collaboration with existing social service agencies that offer similar services. I would think that council would be satisfied with the direction council has given administration to follow the procurement policy. End of story. Allusions to who is going to receive funding under what method or model they receive it, I still, again, say are not appropriate considerations for council. Council has made its decision on procurement policies. They exist. They need to be followed. If they're not followed, there's a problem. If the procurement policies are not achieving the objectives they were designed to achieve, they should be reviewed. No procurement policy that I have ever read, which isn't a lot, they're quite boring, has said the procurement policy will be this organization will receive the contract. That's not a procurement policy. I would invite all of council, I would invite all of the public to read our boring procurement policy because it sets out a fair and equitable system that can be supported and justified before any subsequent adjudicator to ensure that procurement was done in the best interests of the city corporate as a whole. So I don't believe we need to be directing administration to work with existing social service agencies because the appropriate service provider may not be an existing social service agency. In fact, I am aware that there will be services provided through non-municipal contracts into our community by social service providers that are not currently existent in our community. So that type of restriction undermines the policy for procurement that council has already approved. In the same way, I have not recused myself because there is no discussion, there is no motion and no discussion about particular organizations. There's no reason to recuse oneself. And I would suggest that this motion, D, be amended to add a period after strategy and delete all of the following phraseology. I guess I would make that motion to amend. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion to amend, is there seconded by Councillor Mealy? Thank you. And I'll go to our CAO for a comment.
Thanks, and through the chair, I believe this this motion was created. There was a lot of discussion around what services are currently offered. A lot of the items that are in the mitigation strategy, there are parts in our community already, although they might not be 27 hours a day or 7 days a week. And I believe this was not about awarding to an agency, and administration was already acting on trying to find out what hours were served. But I believe that was the intention of this motion when it was created. So I do understand Councillor Patola's thought about it, but again, it was never in administration's mind to actually be awarding. It's to find out who is offering services so we don't duplicate service. Currently, you know, in conversations with province, there are some services that may be being duplicated over similar hours. And what we want to do is clarify what our community needs and how it moves forward. So I believe the changes to the motion would achieve that. Fine. And also in the committee of the whole meeting, I did apologize to council that I did not recognize that there was a name of an organization brought into the motion and that we would be following the procurement policy. So again, I own that as administration. In bringing that, it's caused a lot of conflict online and in the community, and that was not administration's intention. There was a contract through that goes back a while ago and did stop. The idea of a direct award was within administration's capabilities. It was put on the agenda. The reason why it was going to be direct awarded is because that community organization had already done it, and we thought the community wanted immediate action. So again, on that, bringing a name of an association, I did mention in the COW meeting, was administration's error. And we will, again, on the vein of continuous improvement, we are always working to get better. So on that, I do apologize to the public and council for that.
Thank you. Councillor Dame.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the amendment, the motion that we have before us I just wanted to, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but my take, my read on this, the wording of this motion that is proposed that we remove is that the motion speaks specifically to funding opportunities, and there may be funding opportunities that are available to social service agencies that are not available to the city. And the wording of this motion empowers administration to work collaboratively with organizations who might have opportunities that we do not. However, if removing this doesn't, it still allows for staff to do that regardless, then I have no problem with it. But I would just like to know before we do this, that if we take this wording out, if it means that staff won't be seeking opportunities in partnership with social services.
Thanks for the question. No, that is exactly what staff intends to do, is again, try and find out the gaps, talk with the province about how we fill those gaps. Again, a lot of these are provincially funded programs, and if they are already happening, we would be encouraging the province to enhance them through current contracts or possibly putting out a new procurement. But again, the only reason the city would step into some of the provincial areas of responsibility is if council decided that there is an immediate need, and then we could put funding to it out of the municipality and we can go forward. So this would not stop us from talking with service providers and trying to get the community mitigation plan achieved.
Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In the original motion, there's nothing said about funding or about procurement, just seeking funding opportunities for initiatives outlined. And we do need to collaborate with our service providers, whether they're here or they're not here, to ensure that finding out exactly what they offer or what they intend to offer in the future or what they would like to offer in the community, so we can make sure that we have the right services in our community. So I think the original motion will stand. I will not be supporting the amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Solda.
But it's not just collaboration with social service agencies. There's other communities that probably have something on too, and I think we should collaborate with the outside services too.
Thank you. Any other comments on the amendment? Okay, seeing none on the amendment, all in favor? Opposed? Amendment passes. And any further comments on the main motion as amended? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. I do want to talk about the potential $22,000 for a clean team or the clean team. I will let Councillor Solda make a motion if she'd like to, and then we can go from there.
Madam Mayor, I'll move that the $22,000 be allocated to temporary continue with the clean team until the end of December.
Thank you. And is there a seconder? I'll second. And Councillor Patola.
I'd like to recuse myself. Thank you.
Thank
because
you.
it speaks of the existing contract that implies at least a specific organization. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have to ask, sorry, from members of the audience, we do have to ask you to not comment on this or speak up while we're having a discussion. Recognizing the challenge of some of these discussions and the feelings from members of the public as well. I just want to note that I do think that we as a council asked for an immediate solution as a part of this. And so I actually was anticipating that would mean bringing forward the continuation of funding for the existing clean team. So, I wasn't here for the last discussions, and I saw the vast majority of it online, but recognizing there has been some concern about, whether or not a specific organization was identified. I would like us to have the opportunity to have a discussion about this now, separate from other discussions we've had today. So, Councillor Mealy, you had your hand up. Go ahead, Councillor Mealy.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate that. And so going back and with respect to Councillor Patola, because he's out of the room, the original motion proposed at the Committee of the Whole was the Committee of the Whole recommend Council amend the City of Port Alberni bylaw by allocating $22,000 in 2025 for the launch of a clean team operated by the Canadian CMHA. So first of all, without putting words into Councillor Patola's mouth, from what I've heard, is he would have preferred that come forward without a name. And I can understand that, and because we've talked about that, and for staff, in good intentions to try to read what council wants to do and try to do things right away. So I was under the impression of that meeting that there is no clean team right now. Is that correct?
So through the chair, the funding for the clean team ran out several months ago. That's when a lot more complaints started to come into the city about different areas of town. So since the funding ran out for that program, there has been issues brought to the city.
But as of right now, so and that's why the language was for the launch of a clean team. So, and even, again, not speak for Councilor Patola, I bet he would have liked to see for the launch of a clean team as per the procurement policy. So I understand why he was part of the discussion today, because we weren't talking about his organization. It's like myself, I'm a Bulldogs volunteer forever, but I can still talk about the arena. I can still talk about the right things to do in the area, but I can't just deal with that. So I just like to support Councilor Patola first. It was not a conflict of interest, and that's why he's removed himself, because now we're talking about that exact part of this year. So now going back to that discussion, when we talked about the committee of the whole, I just didn't see putting $22,000 to launch a clean team, however they've done it before, but then go out for the procurement elsewhere as of January. Like, we can wait, and like I said, we can either do it or we can do it right. And if we take a little bit of time, we can do it right and have, again, and I'm not saying that maybe the Canadian Mental Health Association wouldn't want to do it for the 2 months and try to be part of it. That's a possibility. But from what I see here is a chance for us to do it right, get the one organization under the umbrella and do it correctly. So that was my take on that meeting. And again, if we don't have a clean team through the city right now, then it's the launch of a clean team. So again, and as Councilor Patola has said, it's through the procurement policy properly. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's important to note that through the procurement policy, council does have ability to direct awards. So I think there's been a comment that, like, earlier, that we need to work through the procurement policy, but council has the right to procure services, as well as giving authority to specific members of staff. So this is not outside of the procurement policy, and I think that's really important to recognize. Feelings aside about potential conflict, because I asked for this report, and a part of what had come forward to us early on in the temporary use permit process was neighbors concerned about the mess in the uptown, and we had a discussion about the previous work of the clean team. My understanding, and I may not be correct on this, I haven't reached out to CMHA or any other possible providers, but my understanding was that there still is a clean team, it's just not actively funded. I just want to see our downtown or uptown area cleaned up. I think that is an area that is drastically lacking. I think that it's only getting worse without services in place. If there was a way for city staff to do this, I would be supportive of that as well. I'm not sure that we need a provider in the motion. I do think there is a presumption that, and certainly it was the presumption on my part when I asked for this report, that we would be looking to that existing provider for services. I don't particularly have an issue with that. I think they've done a fantastic job cleaning up our community, and doing so by offering low barrier employment to vulnerable members of our community. I think that is an incredible thing. I would like to see that service continue. If there is a way that staff can procure that short-term through that provider or through another provider where staff feels it's appropriate, I would personally just like to take the sensitivities out and just say, I'd like to see our community cleaned up. I think that's really important over the next few months. I don't want to wait. I think that the motion is vague enough that if council does decide to put the money out, that staff can determine how to implement that. But from my perspective, I do think that we've heard a number of concerns from members of our community about the garbage uptown, certainly some concern about drug paraphernalia and other things. And I think that it's really important that we recognize that and that we put some resources into cleaning up the community. So I'm very supportive of continuing with the service, understanding the sensitivities that some people may feel about the provider, and conflicts, not the actual provider, and not an actual conflict, but from my perspective, I'd like to put those things aside, and I want to see this program continue, whether it be them or someone else. Councillor Solda.
I have no problem who does it, but the reason I said continue is because this team also has all the tools and the equipment, and they've done it till the end of December. Anyways, also, Madam Mayor, I would like to include not just the uptown. I'm talking about Upper Redford, because there's been a lot of issues up behind in that area, and where that team has probably already been up. I don't know if they have or not, but there's other sectors in our community that actually could use that clean team.
Thank you. Other comments? Councillor Haggard.
I'm really torn on this because I do feel a need for it. When the Clean Team was originally funded by the city last term, they said in the business proposal that they would become self-sufficient. Well, they didn't become self-sufficient because they're no longer operating. They don't have any money, and here we are funding them again. I'm not against it. I'm just, if I was an organization, how receptive would I be to try and get a program up and running for, at the maximum, 8 weeks if we started next week, and then have that program taken away to go out to RFP. So that's my concern. I wish that staff would have an opportunity to talk with local organizations and see which ones would be able to do it quickly so they would know if they were even interested before we decided. Thank you.
Yeah, I think those are fair comments for sure. It's a tricky one. I personally I think that they did excellent work. I think that our community was cleaner when they had people cleaning it. And I'd personally like to get back to that. Any other comments? Councillor Dame.
Thanks. Yeah, at this point, I don't feel comfortable having council name any organization, understanding that it is within our authority, but I don't feel that just given the dialogue that has gone on, I wouldn't support including a name in it, but I could get on board with leaving that in the hands of administration to make a decision if we were willing to fund it and just see if there was an organization willing to take it on in the next couple of months, final months of the year here. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Thank you. And I think that the motion did not include a name specifically, although I did voice that that had been my anticipation when we originally put this forward. Councillor Solda's motion left it broad for staff to implement within the procurement policy. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everyone. And could we call Councillor Patola back? Right, moving on to item number 4, 2026 to 2030 Financial Plan, Fire Department Operational Budget.
Thanks, and through the chair, this is just a report that came to the committee of the whole. We had a fulsome discussion there, and as it was recommended that the communication system for the operating of the Starlink items that were purchased, the capital purchase was by the regional district through a grant and provided, and now we need to have the operating subscriptions year over year. And the next one was about roof venting. This allows the current skylight to be opened during the hot summer and causes a cooling effect. And then the last one was just some upgrades to the tsunami warning system. And at the committee of the whole, I believe these were all moved on to council.
Thank you. I got out of committee of the whole mode. Councillor Mealy, would you like to read these?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And yes, this is on October 20th, staff report, page 81, also on YouTube as well, all the discussion for these three items. So I will move that council approve the annual addition with inflation for the acquisition of Starlink subscriptions for 8 mobile units within the draft 2026-2030 financial plan as follows. 1, increase line 22431 communication system, $8,000.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Solda. Discussion. Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move that council allocate funding in 2026 within the draft 2026-2030 financial plan for roof venting and skylight improvements to reduce heat stress in apparatus bays as follows. 1, increase line 22471, fire building maintenance, $11,600.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Solda. Discussion. Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed, and Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the council approve the annual addition with inflation for repairs and maintenance of the tsunami warning system infrastructure within the draft 2026-2030 financial plan as follows. 1, increase line 22510, emergency program tsunami warning of $8,000.
Thank you. Moved by Counselor Mealy, seconded by Counselor Solda. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And item number 5, 2026 to 2030 financial plan, special event funding, recommendation from the Committee of the Whole. Counselor Dame, would you like to read this?
Certainly. I move that council amend the draft 2026 to 2030 financial plan to reflect the following. Increase line 27190, special event expenses, $15,000.
Moved by Counselor Dame, seconded by Counselor Haggard. Comments? Counselor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just so it is on page 86 of the staff report on October 20th. It's also on YouTube, but part of that $15,000 is the 40th anniversary of the Abashiri Port Alberni Twinning celebration for $3,000. This is coming up next year. Canada Day celebrations, the budget is $5,000. The light up for next year, $1,000. Placemaking, community, small community activation events. So we're putting $25,000 or $2,500 aside for that, and a public art mapping project and beautification, which is another $3,500. And that's all on the YouTube view of the Committee of the Whole.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thanks, everyone. Item number 6, transit bus shelter and bench enhancements. And Councillor Haggard, would you read this one?
Thank you. I'd like to move that council amend City of Port Alberni 2025 to 2029 financial plan bylaw number 5123 2025 as follows. Add transit infrastructure upgrades 2025 capital plan $75,000. 2, increase contribution for BC Transit local only transit funds $75,000.
Moved by Councillor Haggard, seconded by Councillor Solda. Any discussion? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Councillor Haggard.
I'd like to move that mayor and corporate officer be authorized to execute the BC Transit Bus Shelter Program Agreement for the improvements to 18 BC Transit bus stop locations in Port Alberni.
Moved by Councillor Haggard, seconded by Councillor Solda. Any discussion? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Item number 7, building permit and public property information portal. And another recommendation from the Committee of the Whole. Councillor Solda, if you would like to read this one.
Madam Mayor, I move that council rescind the audit committee and transition financial oversights. Oh, I'm reading the wrong one. I'm just going for the whole thing. Okay, try this again. I move that the council amend draft 2026-2030 financial plan to increase line 26129, planning administration, by $53,000 to correct the building permit information on the property information portal.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And item number 8, audit committee terms of reference. Councillor Patola.
Madam Mayor, I move that council rescind the audit committee and transitional financial oversight duties to the broader council through regular reporting at Committee of the Whole meetings to take effect in January 2026.
Moved by Councillor Patola, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Discussion? Further discussion? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And item number, sorry, I didn't call opposed on that one. I think everyone put their hands up opposed. Great, none opposed, thank you. Item 9, BC Municipal Taxation 2025 comparisons. And we have our Director of Finance ready.
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is an annual report that we brought forward, I believe, the last 2 years to support the information provided to council and the public regarding taxation for the City of Port Alberni. So this annual update, the City of Port Alberni shows that we're in the same vicinity in the position. We're at second or third lowest over the last couple of years, and this year we're the third lowest in total taxation with fees and utility services. Also with the total variable taxes, we are still third. When we look at the municipality only, we're 11th out of 22. So with that, we keep in mind that we do provide services for the aquatic center and the multiplex that is only paid by city taxpayers. And even if we took the, I wish I put this in the report, but I did calculate the value of the approximately $2.2 million for the average single-family residential home. That's about $180 if we use the 60% that the residential class currently pays. So even if we did take that away from the municipalities only taxation, I would still be in the same position. But there's other factors, obviously, with the higher cost for some other services that we do provide. So this is just a report for information. If there's any further questions or any other details that council would like to see, I'm here for any of those questions.
Thank you. Always helpful to see this as we start our financial planning process. Questions or comments from council? Okay, would somebody like to move or seat? So moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And we'll move on to item number 10, Economic Resiliency Report, Diversifying the Economy. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good afternoon again. I want to start with an acknowledgement that the 250 plus pages that accompany the report are a lot to digest. This is one in a series of reports that are being made to Council on the subject of economic resilience or resiliency. This one, Diversifying the Economy, is based on many, but not all, of the data-driven documents that have been prepared over the past 18 years with the goal of identifying, then supporting sectors of the economy which are most likely to succeed here in Port Alberni, providing sustainable employment for locals, tax revenue to the municipality, and protection of the environment. The initiatives recommended as the ones to pursue in 2026 are derived in large part from those documents. Some, such as the pursuit of non-tax revenue sources, apologies for my voice, I'm actually quite concerned. I'm on a panel tomorrow at VIEA on transition of the economy, and we've already had one member of the panel drop off. So I'm praying that, I'll recover the voice. Anyways, some such as the pursuit of non-tax revenue sources and an arm's length economic development corporation exploring the feasibility of campgrounds, marinas, or other amenities at city-owned properties are recommended as initiatives the economic development may best support Council's corporate strategic plan with. I welcome your questions and comments.
Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. Deacon. Thank you very much for the report. And yes, that's a lot of paperwork at the end. I like that. I just the only question is, and I think I know the answer to it, but I just want to make sure it says the approved, the motion that's proposed is to approve the proposed prioritization of economic sector diversification. Does that mean these are 1 to 12 are the priorities, or is it 1 is a priority over 2, over 3, over 4, and then down the list? If you get what I'm saying.
Thanks for the question. No, in my mind, they're all priorities and they'll all get done within the 12 months. But I hasten to add that I'm optimistic in my nature.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Mealy.
Yeah, I'll make the motion then, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much for Mr. Deacon. I appreciate that. I move that Council approve the proposed prioritization of economic sector diversification efforts for the 2026 budget year as follows. 1, business plans for the development of city-owned properties and possibly a more direct role in leasing of those properties. 2, participation in the ship recycling leadership group with follow-up as needed. 3, participation in the forest industry coalition with follow-up as needed. 4, reviewing, implementing the creative arts and circular economy blueprint recommendations. 5, supporting bio innovation hub business case recommendations that get made. 6, attraction of remote workers. 7, supporting recommendations from the economic development master plan and rebranding work. 8, participation of the biannual medical staff associations healthcare summits, which have a goal of attracting more physicians physicians and other healthcare personnel. 9, a business case for an arm's-length economic development corporation that would ensure highest and best use of municipally owned assets. 10, support the diversification initiatives being introduced by the Tsayshat, Hupachesset, and other Nuu-chah-Nulth First Nations in Port Alberni. 11, attraction of a post-secondary institute dedicated to the bioinnovation or creative arts. And finally, ensuring that new small businesses whose work would diversify the economy are supported.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Patola. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Pat. It was a lot of reading, but I appreciate the work that you did, and I agree with everything. I was wondering for number 8, though, if I could add one small addition. Participation in the Biannual Medical Staff Association Healthcare Summits, which have the goal of attracting more physicians and other healthcare personnel. I was wondering if you could add and offering support as needed or required, because Pat is very knowledgeable about a lot of different things, and this is certainly one of them. And I think he could add more besides just going to 2 meetings throughout the year. If that's okay with you, Pat.
I'm certainly okay with that.
Thank you. We'll make that a friendly amendment. Additional comments on this? Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the director, I just wanted to say, in reading the report, I noted how long in the tooth, how deep in time these studies have been. And I'm glad that we have someone who doesn't just let them sit on a shelf and collect dust, but remembers where they are, takes them off the shelf, and starts trying to apply them. And really, this is now the time for moving forward and not doing more studies. We know where we're at, and I'm glad to have you at the helm to pilot the path forward from here.
Well said. Echo those comments. Great report, Pat. Okay. Seeing no additional comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we will move on to question period. This is an opportunity for members of the public to ask questions of council on decisions or recommendations made during the course of the meeting. Up to 3 questions per speaker are able to be accommodated. Would anyone like to ask questions? Come on forward, Mr. Ramsey.
Thank you. First, I'd like to acknowledge the discussion about whether a temporary use permit is even needed. That is one of the things we ourselves been looking at in the past week or so. I think that's very important, so I'm glad that that was acknowledged. My question is actually very similar to one that Councillor Haggard asked earlier. In the words of Jolene Dick from the Chamber of Commerce, she said, "I really don't understand why the city is refusing to grant the TUP today and the rationale posted on social media. In accordance with legislative public notice requirements, the TUP will be discussed during Council's regular meeting on November 24th at 2 p.m. at City Hall Council Chambers." She states, "The public notification period for the temporary use permit at the Bread of Life has already been met under the city's own bylaw and the Local Government Act. That notice happens before Council's first consideration, which was back on September 8th. Good governance is about knowing when process becomes avoidance. This permit has been in front of Council since September. The weather isn't waiting, and neither should we." So my question in relation to that is, our people are obviously very concerned about the future of this, and it's being dragged out quite a bit. And yeah, I guess I have the same question as Councillor Haggard and Jolene from the Chamber of Commerce. Why is this being dragged out? And secondly, just to reaffirm that we're able to open the emergency weather response in an emergency. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to our corporate officer or our CAO.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Again, when a temporary use permit comes forward to council, there is a legislative process. When this was deferred, or I can't remember if it was deferred or postponed, but either one to a later meeting after we discussed the mitigation strategy, there wasn't a set date in that motion. So legislatively, when we looked at it, we had to set a new date. Legislatively, again, no, from all of our cohort and from minds greater than myself, recommended we go through the full process again to make sure we did not get a legal challenge afterwards. So in doing so, we make sure that we did follow legislation. I understand that people can read legislation and have their own ideas about it, but in local government, we are challenged all the time on lots of items. Many other communities have been challenged on temporary use permits, especially in this sector. So again, to make sure the due diligence happens and it's not overturned at a later date, we are not dragging it out. We are making sure that we're following proper process and making sure that when the decision is made, it's made in the right way with the right consultation for the date.
Thank you. Very much appreciate that answer and can understand from members of the public the frustration of the delay. And, you know, as I said earlier, I take some credit for that because I was not expecting to need an additional public process when I asked for the extra information. So I can assure you that we are absolutely not trying to drag it out. And Mike, are you able to comment on Major Ramsey's second question? Just to confirm again, I know we did bring it up earlier today, but around the emergency cold weather beds.
Yes, correct. The city will take no action on the cold weather beds as instructed by council.
Thank you. And that was in the original motion that I put forward and we passed. So it is in writing in there. Thank you and appreciate your questions. Are there other members of the public? Oh, sorry, there was a gentleman at the front. Come on forward.
There we go. Yeah, I'm sorry? Oh, my name's Brian Doulard, and I live at 3603 14th Avenue, right at the corner of 14th and Bird. And my concerns are to do with the project on Bird Street that was supposed to have been completed already. My residence was probably more affected than any other residents on the area. They raised the whole land. Now, they had to come down, take my whole fence down, and before they did the project, we were made all the promises in the world. We're gonna take your fence down. If we wreck anything, we'll replace it. And it said, you know, if you want to, this is the time to upgrade. You buy all the stuff, the contractor will install new fencing. So I purchased $7,000 of new fencing to put up, including all the posts. Now, they had to cut all the posts out, so they destroyed all the posts. This happened quite some time ago, and I've been going through trying to get reimbursement for those posts, nothing. They also lost a whole bunch of landscaping ties when they took it all apart. Nothing on that either, okay? I have made lots of emails, particularly last month, to City Engineering Department, and I get zero response. And, you know, it's frustrating when you're trying to get some information on this and they won't even respond to you. And we've been going with this. You can imagine that the yard's been disturbed for over 6 months over there. And there's also things where they had to raise the sidewalk 18 inches. So then they had to put stairs in to the yard where the entrances were before. It's not even to city building codes. There's supposed to be handrails on there. I've asked them who's putting in the handrails, when are they gonna supply them? No answer. And my only request was that the handrails match the handrails that are already on the property. You know, there's the matter of the alley, which they built up and had to build up 18 inches. It's been sloughing down onto my property, and I said, you can't have that, so they put in a retaining wall. Cars have been coming in, trucks have been coming in, hitting retaining walls, pushing them into my fence. And I said, that's not working, try something else. They tried something else, same thing. My last notices to them with pictures and everything of what's going on in the alley, no response in that one either. So, you know, and this is what I find frustrating in particular is a zero response. That, you know, I have concerns and nobody respond to those concerns of when this might happen, when it might be fixed, when I might expect some reimbursement. Do they need some more information from me in order so I can get reimbursed for all these items that I've had to repair or replace? And that's basically why I'm here today. I know it's probably not a council issue, but I'm just frustrated. I just need somebody to direct these people to, hey, you know, give this guy an answer.
Thank you very much for coming to council and for sitting through our whole council meeting, waiting for this opportunity to speak. But I don't have specific information on this, obviously, although just recognize the challenge that that construction did cause to many people in the neighborhood. I go through there every day as well, and I can see, not sure specifically which property yours is, but I know that there were a couple there that were heavily impacted, so recognize that. I'm going to suggest that our CAO or corporate officer connect with you directly, and we'll make sure that that we get you the information that you need. And I think as well, just understand the frustration around not hearing a response, even when we don't necessarily have a good answer. An answer is obviously critical, so thanks for coming today. Are there other members of the public who would like to speak? Come on forward.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Nathan Sai. Just for some context, born and raised in the community. I went to university for 5 years, SFU, graduated top of my class, computer science. Excited to come back here, serve both through the web agency. We help facilitate the portalberni.ca and many other big websites here in Port Alberni, as well. Just my heart to alleviate poverty. I live on 3rd Ave in Argyle and work right beneath it, so neighborhood in terms of the bread of life, really supportive of what they're trying to do. One of my big questions I wanted to ask was a clarification around the neighborhood mitigation strategy. I have a big interest in poverty alleviation. One of the frameworks that I operate from is thinking about relief, so that, for example, if someone just suddenly loses their home, we want to consider how do we minimize the damage, rehab, bring them back to where they are, and then development, helping them to go beyond so they never experience the same risks or conditions that they did. And so just to clarify, is the neighborhood mitigation strategy focused on any one of these, relief, rehab, or development?
It's a good question. I'll go to our CAO, but I think in general, this is a much more specific plan about some of the issues that have been brought forward to us around the community, and not sort of the higher level poverty reduction or housing needs assessment. But Michael, I'll allow you to add to that.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for the question. It's a passion of mine too, trying to get upstream and help people when they actually lose stuff. I know councils work really hard at UBCM working with the province. Again, the municipality is more restricted on some of the items that we do. So the mitigation strategy is more around mitigation of safe streets, clean streets for all residents. Not as much about the housing and other items that are more. That's more of a community well-being and safety strategy that would include the provincial government and other agencies to make sure that. I know the province does work with many social services in Port Alberni, and we're there sort of in consulting stage. But a lot of those initiatives are provincial initiatives, and we aren't directly influencing them. We do try to, but currently the city does not have any a housing strategy besides what's set out in the OCP and how we zone and rezone things.
We do have, and thank you for the questions, we do have a housing needs assessment that sheds some light on what our needs are that we just had updated. And additionally, the Alberni Valley does have a poverty reduction plan as well. It wasn't completed by the city, but it was endorsed by the city of Port Alberni. So those are, I would say, good documents as sort of starting point information of some of what we work from.
Wonderful. Okay. And I know I have 3 questions. The second question was regarding what is the role of grassroots initiatives in the neighborhood mitigation strategy, if there's one?
Great question. I don't know. Mike?
Yeah. No, through the chair, maybe we can ask the manager of social and safety development come up. Yeah.
Thank you for the question. I'd like a little bit of clarification as to what you're asking really about the grassroots initiatives. Could you explain a little bit more what's behind your question?
For sure. Do I say through the chair? Okay. Through the chair, this asked the question. I think the idea is often when I think of trying to solve, especially social problems, we have both the structure as well as the things that grow around it. So, like, you think of a trellis and then the vine and the plants that grow around it. And so we have perhaps those who are strictly funded, who are paid to do the job. And then we also have the response and those people who are perhaps interested in it or perhaps really against it. But just the idea of the movement or the social movement around this program that is not strictly funded through the program.
If I understand your question, and if I understand where you're coming from, the intent of the mitigation strategy is to put in place programs or expand existing programs, such as outreach teams, that can't operate on a 24/7 basis because they don't have enough funding. So if you're thinking at a grassroots level, that's certainly what's behind the thinking within that initiative. And it is, when we did the research on the mitigation strategy, it was to look at best practices throughout many communities throughout Canada. And a number of those communities have grassroots initiatives, of course. And so what we're proposing is to have 4 or 5 key streams, one of them being agreements with the organizations, but they would be funded through provincial funding or federal funding. So when we get the funding, then we can look at procurement, and there could be a number of grassroots initiatives that bubble up from that.
Okay. I think just to clarify through the chair, so I think I might be using grassroots not the way that perhaps is the established way, but I think I'm more referring to so grassroots initiatives as in initiatives that perhaps have no strict funding or oversight from an institution like a nonprofit or the city or the municipality or something like that. So perhaps like more volunteer, community-based programs, yeah.
Okay, so if you look at that, from a community safety point of view, we already have a number of initiatives. We have the community policing program, but there's a volunteer program that's already in existence. We have other volunteer programs that are already in existence. So they would fall under the umbrella of community safety. The mitigation strategy is specifically targeted at mitigating the gaps in our community that for the services that we have or don't have. And so there, it falls under the larger umbrella, and so it complementary too. So there are existing volunteer programs, and is there a need for more? For sure.
I think I'm good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions and for coming to the meeting. Are there additional members of the public who would like to ask questions? Graham?
I always feel like Taylor Swift with that. It's me, hi, I'm the problem. Yeah. It's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me. Before we begin, I do want to say nice things. Everything sucks, and we are in terrible times, but you have been an exceptional council. When I lost the election to you, I actually was not sad because I knew the right people got on council and were going to be leading this community. And I've gone through a lot of files recently. You're doing a very good job. Things are getting done, and efficiencies in the city are far higher than they've ever been. I mean, like, I see crews everywhere, which 3 years ago I didn't. Like, there is a lot of work getting done, unsung work that I think that the community would be proud of if they were really aware of it. Debbie, I mean, despite all the opposition, you got toilets here, which I've been bitching about for how many years, being like, there's nowhere to go. Like, you got that done, and you still gotten shit for it. Like, Shari, your grace through everything that we've gone through, I don't know how you still show up smiling. I've been in one meeting, and I need a drink. So with that said, I just want to clarify something that was said by Todd Patola in this relating to the way business is done here You described it as effective and intentional, and that your job is to make policy, check policy, and ensure policy is followed. I'm just clarifying before I begin.
Well, if you want a direct quote, I'd have to replay the recording.
We'll go with a paraphrase. Effective and intentional, I did write down as you said it, so I do trust that that was part of this. If you've got a paper and pen, you might want to write this down. I can give you my notes after. I had it done much nicer at home, but then I left it because I was like, I have to get a clipboard, and then I forgot the papers and just got the clipboard. These are the dates. October 1st, 2025, October 11th, 2025, June 23rd, 2025, January 13th, 2025, October 15th, 2024, October 28th, 2024, and March 30th, 2020. Those are the dates you're gonna need for what I'm gonna talk about here. And what I'm gonna talk about is a follow-up to this question, or the question I had when I yelled out about transparency. This is what we're talking about, conflict of interest and transparency issues. October 1st, 2025, permissive tax exemption. Todd was here and voted in favor of his organization getting $162,704.96. August 11th, the city voted $8,765.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
That's simply not correct. And if the speaker wishes to cross-examine on the basis of facts he asserts but does not provide proof of, I'd be willing to join him in a civil suit on the matter. But as it is, this is not the appropriate forum to disparage another individual.
Todd, I haven't even asked my question yet. I'm just reading what I actually pulled from city minutes.
And Madam Mayor, you're very, very well aware that individuals come here and don't ask questions, but make statements with a question mark on the end, which is not appropriate. Thank you.
I do have questions. I actually have far more than 3. I just have a little bit to get through. Okay. It's just reminding you of business. That's why I gave you the dates so you can cross-reference this. And I will say, Todd, I suck at math. I'm also a mentally ill drug user, so I should probably just be picking up poo. But for this sake, this comes from your documentation, so I'm just gonna continue. August 11th, 2025, 8,750, 6,500, and 2,200.
Graham, I'm sorry. I think that you're not asking a question at this point.
No, I am.
I do want to let you
go through on this, and it's better to do it here than Chatterbox.
Well, I appreciate that, but I do want you to ask a question because Councillor Patola, if he chooses to, will be able to answer it.
Okay.
Understanding that you do have dates written down, I think likely there's a good opportunity for a conversation here, but
okay. Then I'll just summarize it with this. And I do have to give you some historical context just for that, because otherwise question won't make sense. 2020, city signed a lease with CMHA, Todd Patola's organization, to see the caretaker suites. Other date that I referenced, June 23rd, 2025. Oh, sorry, wrong date.
Madam Mayor, again, I think I'd have to correct the speaker that I don't own an organization. I don't control an organization. I sit as a volunteer on a board of a number of organizations, all of which I think have been disclosed, or if not disclosed, certainly are part of public record in any event, because every organization I sit as a director on files director's notices with the province of British Columbia. So, but as any individual who sits on a board of an organization knows, that is one vote. To suggest I control any organization I sit on the board of would be to suggest that I control this council. And I think that's pretty evident furthest from the truth. So again, I would just correct the speaker to clearly state his question without making disparaging comments.
Thank you. And I do just want to ask our corporate officer maybe to step in first on process for if somebody, a member of the public, does have concern around conflict of interest, who would they direct that concern to?
It's the ombudsman, I think.
Correct. It is the ombudsman.
All right, so I'll be in touch there. Can I just finish this one question? I promise I'll get through it quick. I won't even ask 3. I'm allowed 3, I'll ask 1.
I just want to ask you to not make implications because I think it's really important. Councillor Patola.
I'll just say CMHA.
Councillor Patola is here. I think he is willing to answer questions. And I just want to make sure that we're not making implications as you are asking your questions.
This is perfect. Okay. I'll start over. March 2020, city signs a lease with CMHA organization for the 5 caretaker suites. The lease is $1 a year. That's good to go. You renewed the lease January 13th with the intent that there will be no further investments to be made in caretaker suites. You renewed it, you went through with that other motion. But then in August, you gave them another $17,400 for repairs. And the ironic thing is that Todd did vote in this, again, for CMHA, to receive permissive tax exemptions, $162,000. But the core agreement under the tenant's covenants is that they pay the rent and applicable taxes and to pay for all leasehold improvements, and they repair the interiors. Tonight I was told that you guys get to choose when you just opt out of conflict situations. That's the policy here, is that we just opt out. I looked on the website.
Again, Madam Mayor, that is not the policy, that is the law.
Can I just finish, Todd? You can get your spiel out after. The bylaw that you actually have on your website currently about conflict is bylaw 5061, the oath of office, and it has in it, I will now allow my personal interest to conflict with the duties of my office. It's either a typo or you're blatantly admitting this. There's not proper mechanisms in place for people to report conflict of interest here, and there's not the people intervening. 160, so far this year, City Council has given $259,000, and they've proposed giving up to $399,000. There is a conflict here. And
Graham.
there needs to be better mechanisms, is all I'm saying. You guys can, I'll leave this so you guys can look at it because you think I'm lying. So I'll leave it
Thank
here
you.
to collect, but there's problems.
Okay. Councillor Patola, certainly if you would like an opportunity, you are able to speak. I do want to say that there are policies as well as community charter processes that we follow around conflict of interest. And Councillor Patola, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, absolutely, there is process. There's process handed down by the provincial government in the community charter. It's the place to start. And there is certainly checks and balances that individuals are able to access to ensure that whatever concerns they have might be addressed and confirmed or rectified. When it comes to conflict of interest, I have often said that conflict of interest is not a problem. In my opinion, conflict of interest is almost a badge of honor because it says that an individual is involved in their community. Conflict of interest never arises as a derogatory situation except when a conflict of interest is not declared. As history will show, such as today, when there's a conflict of interest or even a perceived conflict of interest, it's up to the individual who's in conflict to recognize it and remove themselves. Those are things that I feel I have done. And in fact, have never heard anything to the contrary until today. Some of these conflicts that were alleged, I was not even on council at the time, so I'm not sure how I could have been in conflict at that point in time. Other of those conflicts that were alleged, I had nothing to do with and did not vote on. Other of those conflicts that were alleged were decisions that I was not involved with whatsoever because they were administrative and not part of the duties of council. So to simply say, for an individual to say, I don't like something, is a good starting point. And it's important that we do have these processes when individuals feel their spidey sense going off about any issue, that there's a process to validate that. But making accusations and unfounded assumptions on an impartial set of facts doesn't do anything to resolve those issues when in fact an improper conflict has not been declared. That is not the situation, and I encourage anyone who feels that they have witnessed a conflict that was improperly dealt with to contact the appropriate parties, which I believe in this situation would be the Ombudsman. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from council on this? Okay, I do just want to say that we do follow the policies, we do follow the community charter, which is that each individual member of council will determine when they are in conflict of interest. And as you will see from, times Councillor Solda has recused herself in the past, that people have varying levels of comfort with that based on their own understanding of the legislation. Yeah. Are there additional questions that people would like to ask? Okay.
Move for adjournment.
Move to adjourn. Thank you, Councillor Mealy. And seconded by Councillor Dame. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, unopposed.